We are tonight's entertainment.
You will never find a more wretched hive of scum and villainy.
Excellent!
Hello everyone, welcome to an episode of the Movie Mania podcast, where we talk films past, present, and future. I am Sherman Troy White of Podcast Media, and joining me is the man, the myth, the legend, kicking us off in 2017, Trilbee / Mr. Toddus.
For all acquaintance be forgot. Okay, let's get on with the year. Let's just do it. Let's forget 2016. Decent, really good year for movies, but let's move on to 2017. Let's talk about all the great films that are coming out this year. Oh, we've got to do all the best and worst of, don't we?
Yeah. The best part about this podcast is that we probably won't get to the best of or the upcoming 2017 until February. So John Wick will be like a week after we get there. So you know what I'm saying? So like it'll like Lego Batman will pretty much be out by the time we get to the films we're looking forward to most of 2017. Which, by the way, hello listeners, hi guys. I believe this will be out on January 11th or 12th. So we're pretty much like 2 weeks into 2017. And welcome back to the podcast. First podcast of the new year, ladies and gentlemen. Trilbee, how are you? How was your 4-week holiday?
Oh no, it was good. Yeah, met up with family. I spent most of Christmas Eve and Christmas Day actually driving across the country because I was working on Boxing Day and doing all of it was kind of insane. However, it was great to see family. I had a great New Year. And during the New Year, on New Year's Eve, I proposed to my girlfriend of almost 6 years, and she said yes. So.
Woo. I thought you were gonna be like, and she said no, and so
and she said no, so now I'm stuck here with Trey.
I was gonna say, I'm currently living in Trey's basement, even though he doesn't have a basement, in a box, not even in a bed, in a basement, in a box.
Yeah.
Now back in the box.
Back in the basement, in the box, in the cardboard.
It's like the Babadook.
In the hole.
It's like the Babadook, but Trilbee. Yeah.
Yeah, you just feed me worms.
Yeah, no, congratulations, man. Good on you. I found that out a couple weeks ago, so like the excitement's kind of like, you know.
Yeah, because you're my personal Facebook as well, so
yeah.
you found out at the same time all of my friends did.
So when I don't know if I commented, I was like, "Good on you, man! Like, attaboy, attaboy." Yeah, so good. Congratulations to you, Trilbee. Yeah. Meanwhile, over here in Treyland, I'm failing algebra, or am I? In case my mother's listening to this. Yeah, but, so, you know, everyone's worried. Everyone's like, oh.
Nice way to cover your tracks.
Yeah. It's just...
I'm failing, or am I?
Or am I? Am I failing in algebra? You'll find out next week. No, it's just, you know... I don't know. I don't want to get into my school life again because I know Bandit hates that part. And time codes listed below, by the way, guys. You guys just want to jump right into the movie news or the main topic or whatever, because we're gonna. This is a slight little tangent here. I don't have a Christmas story to tell this year because last year I told the story of how my cousin broke my lightsaber, my Kylo Ren lightsaber, 2 hours after I got it, but for Christmas. But this year I'm gonna tell a school story and how, for some reason. You know, my teacher started yelling at me because, as you know, I'm working a short film. I'm not sure if I told you guys that. I announced it on my social media. And I've been in the process of writing it for the last, like, I don't know, several months. And so I've just been I spent more time than I spent on Suicide Squad, that's for sure. And so my algebra teacher is trying to talk to me and giving me the lesson. And, I looked at my algebra notebook, and what should be a bunch of notes on how to solve, I don't know, quadratic equations, is just like script notes and scenes and storyboards and a made-up poster and who to put in it. And then my teachers looked at it and said, "Do you want to pass this week? Do you want to pass?" And I was just like, "Do I get to pick my movie?" Apparently, that's exactly what I said. So there you go, struggling artist. Anyways.
Unless you're making The Accountant 2 or something. Something that is genuinely about math, or Hidden Figures 2. You know, films about mathematicians.
Funnily enough, my story is about math. My story has a lot of math in it. Well, that's not true. It doesn't have a lot of math in it, but it's called equation for a reason, that's all I'll say. I don't want to give anything away on the internet. For less people want to steal my idea after I spend all this time on it. Bandit will most likely not be joining us this week for reasons that I can't understand. He's probably asleep or out doing things. But, Trilbee, that doesn't mean anything because it's time to get to the movie news.
Yes, let's do it.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? I've just been handed an urgent and horrifying news story. Cannonball!
All right, guys, this is the movie news portion of the show, in which case we talk about the movie news that has occurred over the last, 2 weeks since we've been gone. This is 2016 stuff, apparently, because not a lot of stuff has happened yet this year, movie-wise. I mean, Woody Harrelson's rumored to be in Han Solo, which is pretty cool, I guess. But after Rogue One, I'm kind of nervous about the anthology films. That being said, first one of the year, Carrie Fisher on December 27th passed away after suffering a heart attack. She was in the hospital for a few days. We had heard that she was in recovery, and then I finished a 2-hour conversation with someone I won't name on the show and found out that she died, which was a punch to the dick. Trilbee, do you have any thoughts?
Well, it was 2016. Just couldn't let us have. Couldn't let us have Carrie Fisher, could it? It was kind of one that we were prepared for, in a manner of speaking, because there was the news that she had the heart attack and she was going to hospital, and that there was news reports saying that she was recovering, she was getting better, and then they announced that 4 days after being in hospital, she'd passed away, and then
I think that's what hurt the most was that. I don't want to say false hope, a new hope, if you will. No, but that feeling, that hopeful feeling of like, oh, she made it out. 2016 didn't get her, and then it just snatched her away. Like, it just got her. Yeah. It was,
Especially since, after Rogue One, obviously the filmmakers didn't know that was going to be happening, but the way that they end the film, the way that they do, and then that's because the way 2016 ends, it was kind of like life imitating art in a sense. It was kind of poignant. And then a day later, her mother, Debbie Reynolds, passes away. Because you do get these stories of people, like, because those two were such a great pair. They were so alike and they were so great together. You see documentary footage or footage of those two together. There's a documentary that is being released in a couple of weeks' time on HBO, I think, and it was in production long before she passed away. This isn't capitalizing on it, but you see footage from that, and those two are just so in sync with each other. And it's, I can't even imagine what it's like to see your own child go before you. That's incredibly I can't even begin to describe anything like that. So that was just an extra element to the story.
Her passing kind of had that Robin Williams effect on me, of where it's just the shock of that person's not here anymore. Yeah. Of that feeling of, I'm going to go in next or this December, watch episode 8, and see someone on screen who has been dead for a year. It's such a strange feeling of they're not here anymore. But it also had the same effect of, because when Robin Williams unfortunately passed, that being by the way, another side tangent, I don't know if you know who Graham Norton is. He's a but
you're asking the British guy. If
I'm just making sure. I don't. It's like assuming an American.
Dude, I've worked with
Graham
Jimmy
Norton.
Fallon
is. Have you really?
Yeah.
Have you met him?
Yeah. I wouldn't say I know him personally, but yeah, he's shorter than you'd think.
I'd imagine he's pretty short. Is he a big douche? He seems like a big douche.
He seemed nice. I didn't work with him extensively, but yeah, I had a quick exchange of words.
Continuing on with this tangent, Robin Williams is on the Graham Norton show. If you guys just want to if you're having a bad day and just want to cheer yourself up, look up Robin Williams, Graham Norton, and it's hilarious. Carrie Fisher was on that show too, and she was great on there too. A lot of her interviews, but in the sense that when Robin Williams passed, and it was via a suicide, I do believe he hung himself. There was a lot of focus towards that. Good job, Trilbee.
Sorry, that was me. I never have my phone on loud, and then one time
good job.
It goes off.
Good job. You had 4 hours to get ready for this podcast.
I genuinely did.
No, it's we took a break. We were like, no, let's take a break. We can
see if Bandit wakes up.
Yeah, it didn't happen, and you still kept your phone on. No, and people were focused more on how he died as opposed to, there were reports when Carrie died about, how her past has caught up with her, and just things that didn't need to be said, things towards her family that didn't need to be said. I feel very bad for her daughter, who has now lost her mother and her grandmother, and in like a day, you know, which is brutal. Like that's not good on anybody to lose family like that so close to you, so sporadic, or not sporadic, but so simultaneously almost. And to the Star Wars community, to those who are getting upset that people are asking about Episode 8, don't feel, and I'm speaking in the sense that this was like a week and a half ago, but, you know, Carrie, it has been announced that, because we all know that Episode 8 wrapped filming, at least those that pay attention, Episode 8 wrapped filming about 6 months ago. You know, it's been done filming for a bit. It's been a while since they wrapped filming. And you know, I think this might be poor timing on Disney's part. Just be poor time, maybe not poor timing, but it's just unfortunate coincidence, because I've been testing this theory that I'm pretty sure Leia dies at the end of Episode 8. Though apparently reports have come out now that she was going to have a big role in Episode 9, so I guess I'm wrong. But I just thought either Luke or Leia was going to have to die in Episode 8, just to kind of keep that flow of killing your heroes going. But it's a trash thing that happened, and I get sad every now and then. I'm just like, oh man, yeah, she's not here anymore.
Yeah, and like you were saying with the comparisons with Robert Williams, it was they just so great in interviews, and the fact that Star Wars has had this resurgence in the past couple of years, and she's been able to go on the talk show circuit, and she's been able to speak out more, and she realizes how beloved that she was in the franchise, and like she's an incredibly sharp woman. Like, yes. She had a lot of personal demons and a lot of issues, so she was like a shattered piece of glass. But as a result, she was sharp as hell.
Yeah, she owned it though. Like she taught, and I think she wrote books about it. She wrote books.
Oh, she's written several autobiographies. She worked as a script doctor in the 90s.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, and there's pictures that have surfaced of her script notes from Empire Strikes Back, and like some of the more iconic moments of that movie were done by her in the script. I'm like, what a, yeah, and it makes me want to go out, and because I don't read books often, just because I don't want to go on a tangent of why I don't like reading, but because that just seems like to make it way too much sense for people who don't agree with my opinion. It's like, well, he doesn't like to read, so what does he know?
He ain't got time for that fancy book learning.
I'm just saying, don't take 100 pages to get going. No, but it makes you want to go out and check out her book and learn more details about her story. Because I only know bits and pieces of her story. That's my dog making a ruckus in the cage.
I didn't even hear that.
Okay, good to know. Sorry. I'm just making sure my mic didn't hear it either, because I don't want to listen to this and then hear scratch.
No, fair enough.
Anyways, but yeah, that was Carrie Fisher passing.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, we love you, Princess Leia.
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay, Princess. The plans have been delivered.
There is hope.
There is hope. Luke Skywalker has been found. Everything's going to be okay.
Yeah.
Right on. May the Force be with you.
Mm-hmm.
Moving on to something just a bit more cheerful. The trailer for Alien Covenant dropped a couple weeks ago.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. Trilbee, I know it's been a while. Bandit's made a few videos about this trailer. What'd you think of the trailer?
I think it was... it's from 20th Century Fox, who released the trailer on Christmas Day. They did a very similar thing where they released a gory red band trailer for Deadpool on Christmas Day a year before. So I think it's up to 20th Century Fox to give us our daily dose of horrifying, gory visuals on Christmas to remind us the true spirit of Christmas. That being said, yeah, it looked pretty good. Yeah, I don't think that it's... I'm going to be here skeptical about the Alien franchise, because I don't think Prometheus was very good. I think that Ridley Scott is a great visual director, and even though I loved The Martian, I thought it was one of the best films of 2015. He was kind of handed that. He fell into that film. He wasn't meant to direct it. He fell into it at the last minute, and he was able to bring...
But still, if they were to give, The Martian,
Oh, if it went to McGee or Brett Ratner or something, then The Martian is half the film it is. But when you also have Ridley Scott heavily involved in the story, like he was with Prometheus and presumably with Alien Covenants, then I get a little bit concerned.
Fair enough.
I'm sure we're going to get a great visual film. There's going to be some great horrific sequences, like even in Prometheus, that cesarean section scene when Nimoy that's horrifying, and that's the stuff that Ridley Scott does brilliantly. And there's Don't do shower stuff in space, okay? Don't have space shower sex, because it will end badly.
Just don't have sex in space. Like, I will say this about the trailer. When I first saw the trailer, I went, right on. I was 110% on board. I really liked how it felt. It felt more like an Alien movie than a Prometheus movie, but at the same time, as someone who really enjoys Prometheus, I think that it seems to be, it has that nice blend of the two. You know, it has that kind of more kind of vast open world style that Prometheus had, but it still is able to have that kind of colonial marines kind of claustrophobic horror film that Alien had. And I hope the two will mesh well, because they meshed pretty well in the trailer. I don't know, there's just that shot of seeing, you see all the someone handing, I think Danny McBride hands one of the main characters a gun, that he cocks his cowboy hat, and they go on the whim, like, oh, that feels very Aliens, and something. I don't know how refreshing it is to see the xenomorph on the big screen again. I haven't seen the trailer on the big screen yet, but to see, these two people, having sex, and then you just hear,
and you see,
like, you see, and you get like a glimpse of the teeth. You're just like, get them, or something as, with the opening scene, which is just terrifying, by the way, which is like, open the door, let me out. Very original Alien, by the way, when the guy's just like flipping out, and like you see it pop out of his back. You're like, ooh, oh, this is gonna be brutal. Oh yeah, I'm so excited. May can't come soon enough.
I think this film is going to live or die based on whether or not the screenwriter John Logan is interested in the Alien material, because he's the type of screenwriter who, if he's not invested in the material, it's gonna, when he's into something, he produces something awesome. Like half of Hugo, the kid stuff for the fairy tale stuff, that's pretty pants in Hugo, but the actual historical fiction that it brings up in Hugo, for those of you who haven't seen the film, it's based on kind of a real life person, and that aspect is amazing. When he's into the source material or whatever he's writing, he produces gold. But when he is maybe not into something as much, then that's kind of what I think is going to cause Alien Covenant to either live or die. Either way, it's going to be scary, I think.
I have faith in John Logan solely because, say what you will about Hugo, the script, part of the script may be a little pants, but I think
stealing my terminology. Pants.
But yeah, sorry, I was gonna trash, but but it's like Skyfall is really, really good. I really dig Skyfall. I don't know what happened with Spectre. I feel like Sony happened to Spectre. I don't think Spectre was, because I don't understand how you can get the exact same people that did Skyfall sans Roger Deakins and get Spectre. That doesn't make any sense to me.
I like Spectre, but I won't disagree with you. I think that if they'd done a film between Skyfall and Spectre, the creative team had done something else, maybe something a bit smaller, and then come to Spectre fully charged and invigorated, then it could have been awesome. Kind of like Edgar Wright doing Scott Pilgrim before he did The World's End.
Fair enough. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. You're right. I don't know. I have faith in John Logan because it's not Damon Lindelof, John Logan's not one to ask 18,000 questions. And I still really dig Prometheus, but also Alien Covenant, the poster is beautiful. I love it. It's just the xenomorph and run. Oh, it's so simple.
No title,
so
just
awesome.
It doesn't even have like you can barely even make out the studio logos at the bottom. It's just run May 19th and the alien face.
My god!
I want that on my wall.
That's all you need. Yeah, like it's in one, to quote John Campea, in one frame. What's the movie about? I'm like, oh, it's aliens. Sick. I'll be there. Like that's all you need. My main issue, if I'm honest with you, is Catherine Watterson. Solely because I'm not sure how she can handle working in big budget films. I haven't seen Inherent Vice. I know she's in that. I haven't seen that. I quite enjoyed her in Steve Jobs, but I think it's really hard to be bad in Aaron Sorkin's script. That's all I'm saying.
You don't forget Fantastic Beasts.
Yeah, that was what I was about to say. Like, but she really didn't do it for me in Fantastic Beasts, and so I'm not sure how she can handle the big blockbusters. So I'm interested to see. And Ridley Scott is a very hit or miss director. Someone like Michael Fassbender is just so talented that when you see him as David, you're like, oh, he's so good. But at the same time, there are other performances in that movie that are just bland and meh. Idris Elba, Charlize Theron, Guy Pearce.
Yep.
Yeah. That's all the news I have, Trilbee. I don't know if you have anything else.
Not really. It has been a real quiet time, to be honest.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good.
So,
today's the, I think it's today, it's like the 1 year anniversary of David Bowie dying.
Yeah. Well, because over Christmas I've been working outside of my media stuff. I've also been working in retail as well because it pays well at Christmas, and working at a entertainment shop, and we'd always have David Bowie over the speakers instead of Christmas music, and it just makes you really appreciate his music and how awesome and unique a sound he's got. And yeah, it's been a year. 2017 is just going to be full of, a year ago, this person you loved deeply passed away. So we're just going to keep getting reminded of it.
And 2017, I feel like, is not going to be kind on the celebrity death. That's all I'm saying. You know, everyone's like, who's next? And I'm like, $5 as Morgan Freeman dies by the time 2018 rolls around.
Jinxed it.
I didn't jinx anything. I'm not superstitious, but whatever. It's like, I can't, because it's always someone where you're just like, oh, really? Like, it's always that you don't think about the person until they're gone, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Like when Gene Wilder died, you were like, what? You're like, Gene Wilder died, but he's like, because in your brain you're like, he's Willy Wonka, he's only like 40 years old. He's only like 40 years old. When you realize he was closer to, he was in his 70s, like, well, that makes sense, I suppose. Hold on, I think there might be someone at my door, Trilbee, while we're at a point. Right? Are we still at that point yet? Did I make the transition yet?
No, I was going to say that the Golden Globes happened the other night.
Oh, I don't give any kinds of craps about the Golden Globes.
Fair enough. La La Land won everything.
Who cares?
Sorry,
that's not a dig on La La Land at all. I really can't.
Don't care about the Golden Globes.
But the Hollywood Foreign Press is on my bad side. But anyways, I have to go answer my door. And that did I transition to the homework section?
No, you didn't. No.
Oh Christ! All right, let's get to the homework section.
Get on with it.
This week, each one of you has a homework assignment.
Your homework is to listen to some real music, get inspired.
Is this your homework, Larry?
Down with homework?
Alright guys, this is the homework portion of the show, in which case we talk about the films we were either assigned to see or just saw on our own. Trilbee, I want to talk about Sherlock.
Oh yeah, go for it.
So, Sherlock to me has been this interesting... The reason I love Sherlock so much, you can honestly blame The Hobbit for that, because I saw The Hobbit back in 2012, and I was just like, I wonder what else has Martin Freeman done recently, and plus I saw Benedict Cumberbatch in the Star Trek trailer. I was like, oh, what's this guy doing? What's he up to? And I saw, and I'm like, oh, they're in the Sherlock Holmes show. I'm like, sick, all right, right on. And so I saw the first episode, and I was like, this is a little odd. It's weird seeing it, because I like the Robert Downey Jr. movies, and so that's kind of why I'm like, I like Sherlock Holmes. You know, I'm a nerd, so I read the Sherlock Holmes books. Not A Study in People, what's it called? The Speckled Band is, I think, my favorite story of theirs. Spoiler alert, it's a snake.
So spoilers for a century-old book.
It makes so much sense though. Like, spoiler, it's a snake, duh. And I found it on Netflix, and I was like, oh man, this show is awesome. I love this show. I love the way they handle things like texting and how he detects things and how we see it physically on the screen and as it's happening. And it's such an awesome show.
Because Sherlock kind of pioneered that. It's now become kind of cliche to see text images and phone screens on the screen, but Sherlock really was the first big mainstream show to do that, to make that prominent, at least in the mainstream.
And it really saves a lot of time on like having a cut to person looking at the screen, or maybe sometimes people just have the screen in the corner of the screen and just be like, oh wait, this is what people are seeing on the screen. But Sherlock just like text, read it, use your reading brain. And then season 1, I finished season 1. I think, what good television. I can't imagine how season 2 can be any better. Just, it's like, to quote my dad, that's damn good TV.
Yep.
And then season 2 happens, and in my opinion, season 2 is some of the best television I've ever seen.
Season 2 is one of the rare seasons of any show that is just full of 10 out of 10 episodes.
I'll go 9 out of 10 for Hounds of Baskerville, just because episode 1 is so spectacular.
Well, 1 and 3 are so impactful, whereas Hounds of the Baskerville is more of the filler one, but on its own terms, it's still amazing.
Yeah, it's a classic Sherlock Holmes story. Like, oh, let's go watch Holmes and Watson handle the Hounds of Baskerville. It's the classic story. But
why do you call it
the way they handle?
I love the way he says that.
I don't got friends, John. I just got one. And then he starts.
That was the best British accent I've ever heard.
Sorry, I don't. I can do one better. I know I can.
Sherlock, I'll clean your chimney, Sherlock.
And but I
Anyway.
I just season like I'll tell you what, like a Scandal in Belgravia, I think is what it's called. Like that Irene Adler episode, I think is my favorite episode of the series, and I think it's because the world's most obvious twist. Like you can watch Sixth Sense and be like, oh yeah, that makes sense because this, and this, and this. Or you can watch Usual Suspects and say, oh yeah, because this, and this. You know, Empire Strikes Back. Like, I guess that makes sense. No duh. But like, Sherlock's. But like that. Spoiler alert for Sherlock, obviously. But like when it's revealed where her passcode on her phone is, and it's I am Sherlock. You're like, no kidding. Like I think and I do this now to where like people are fans of the show. I'm like, let me watch episode 1 of season 2 with you and see if you can figure this out. And people usually figure it out. Like I think I was watching with my cousin, and I think the moment he entered in 221B, my cousin said, "It can be letters." I was like, "Oh yeah." He's like, "Oh, so it's Sherlock then." He's just like, I'm like, "What?" And then my girlfriend said the same thing. She's like, "It can be letters." I was like, yeah. She's like, "Oh, so it's Sherlock." And I'm like, oh, man, why am I just stupid? Why was I? Maybe since I was 12. I don't know.
I thought the same as well. Like, to be fair, I wasn't trying to figure out myself. I was just watching it, but I didn't put that together either.
Well, I mean, I didn't even ask them. I was just watching them to see the reaction. They got it because they were trying to figure out pieces together. Like, oh, what if it's this, and this? No, but I really like that first episode. Then episode 3. I don't cry a lot when I watch television. It's like this and Lost, or a bunch of other things that ever made me bawl my eyes out on TV. The moment that episode ended, and it's like Holmes is like, not Holmes, Watson's like, "Don't be dead, Sherlock." I was just like, I turned like a Tumblr fangirl. I was like, no, Sherlock, don't be dead. Oh God, he's alive. Oh God, what about John? Oh, when is season 3 coming out? 2014.
Yep.
And then I had to wait 2 years. I was like, oh no. Season 3 is some of the worst things I've ever seen. Like, I really hate season 3, like with a passion.
Right,
I can't stand.
I don't hate
stand
series 3, but it is a notable step down. The best episode of series 3 is the wedding episode, and then,
I disagree.
Well, I think when it gets to his last vow, which is the end of series 3, and it's all. The whole thing about Series 3 is that it's based around this villain who's like the Napoleon of blackmail, I think he's called. And he knows the personal weakness of everybody, or the politicians, or the business, basically everybody important. But because he has no physical evidence of it, he's a useless villain. Yeah. He's useless. There was no consequences for killing him either. Because people have been arguing with me for literally years because this guy is just the most lame villain, because if he's got his own internal mind palace, he literally can't prove anything.
Now, Trilbee, you don't understand, because he peed on Sherlock and John's furniture, so he's a good villain.
Yeah, so what happens is that in the beginning of Series 4, even the writers seem to acknowledge, he was a terrible villain. It was the ending of Series 3 was stupid. Let's just retcon it, and they've done that. I am so vindicated.
I think what I almost didn't return to Sherlock after like season 3. I was like, I mean, okay. Season 3, like episode 3, I'm like, oh, episode 3 I think was the best episode of season 3, only because stuff was happening, I guess. Like episode 2 really felt like they were treading water, like they needed to save the budget for episode 3. Episode 1 just felt like I hate episode 1. So The Empty Hearse is probably my least favorite episode of Sherlock ever. I can't stand that episode. And then, well, until I saw the Abominable Bride.
Yep.
What a trash piece of entertainment! Like, how
it won an Emmy.
Mighty? What?
It's the only episode of Sherlock to win an Emmy. Abominable Bride.
Are you kidding me? What? How high and mighty do Stephen Moffat and Mark Gatiss think they? I'm probably saying their names.
It's Stephen Moffat, Mark Gatiss.
Gatiss, yeah. How high and mighty do they think they are? Because they're like, oh, let's write an episode about feminism. We're gonna be so awesome. I'm like, shut up. No, keep your agenda out of my entertainment. If you wanna have a message in your story about being about equality and being good to women, that's fine. But don't this whole stupid secret. I'm channeling my inner bandit here when I say this, but like. to make this plot about the whole secret society of women and whatever, and how behind every good man's a woman. I'm like, sure, fine, do it. If it works well, if it serves your story, fine. But then to like But to then have these forced bits of cheesy, it's the equivalent of like in the movies when the guys are like, but how can you do this because you're a woman, and the woman like does something really ridiculous that she can never do again for some reason, and no other character can ever do. It's like, well, see, even though I have a vagina, I'm a strong character. I'm like, shut up, you don't just make them strong characters. We didn't care that Irene Adler was a woman. We liked her because she was a good character. And so to spend this entire episode just talking about how important it is to be a female, it really bothered me. It also came out like a week after The Force Awakens as well, so it was like we just handled strong female characters like awesomely, and then you just crapped all over that progress by forcing it down our throat. I was so angry that episode.
Crapping all over progress. You've not watched a Stephen Moffat script before, have you? Yeah, because it basically, like, series 1 and 2 are amazing, and then it just completely goes downhill. Series 3 isn't terrible, but it's definitely weaker. And then Abominable Bride, I think, is the nadir of the series. And then you get to beginning of series 4 for the Six Thatchers, and it was just not very good. Like, it wasn't bad, but
I was genuinely scared, Trilbee. I was like, is Sherlock a bad show now? Oh no. And then spoilers for season 4 of Sherlock, spoilers for all of season 4 of Sherlock except for episode 3 because it's not out yet, or is it? When Mary dies,
yeah,
it's like
good.
I'm like, I didn't like her to begin with. I really couldn't find her.
I liked
caring.
her, but she should never have been the focus after her initial reveal, after the twist in series 3 about her. She should never have been the reveal. She should never have been focus after that.
I just couldn't find myself caring about the. I feel like I'm a broken record when I say this, but as much plot development as they gave Mary, besides her being spunky, I couldn't really find myself caring about who she was.
And that's Stephen Moffat female characters.
It's just, I don't know. I did appreciate that they made John a flawed and human character, because we hadn't ever really seen that of him before. We've got him being kind of a douche towards his therapist, and he's punched Sherlock before, but Sherlock usually deserves it. But to see him legitimately, consider making things mistakes and cheating on his wife was, I think, a really, really interesting way to take that character. I said, wow, really doing something, this are essentially the heart and soul of the show, doing something incredibly deplorable is really interesting.
Look, the most entertaining part of the Six Thatchers was watching Twitter freak the hell out when John was considering cheating on Mary. Everyone hating John Watson. He was completely laying into him on Twitter for what he was thinking of doing, which I guess that was the most entertaining part of it, because Sherlock always excels when it's the dynamic between these two and there's a case in the background. Sherlock always falls flat when it's primarily about the story, and that's why Six Thatchers falls flat for me. And what's depressing is that the next episode, The Lying Detective, goes back to formula, and it's the best episode since series 2. But what's happening is that the UK overnight figures, The Lying Detective, the latest episode, is the lowest rated episode in Sherlock's history. And that's what that's what happens when you have a very bad opening. People don't come back till next week.
Yeah, and when you only get 3 episodes in a series, keep this in mind. We have 90 more minutes of Sherlock until 2019.
Yeah, the BBC haven't done a great job at handling Sherlock. But to be fair, between series 2 and 3, with so much happening with Marvel and with The Hobbit and all of this stuff with these two actors, it was difficult it was more like a product of circumstance. But the BBC easily could have handled it better. They could. Same thing for Doctor Who as well. Not having any Doctor Who programming in 2016 apart from a spin-off which they gave no promotion to. It's not been great with its national treasures.
I just think, because you're right, Lying Detectives, you're right, is a genuinely good episode. It reminds me of something like The Great Game or A Scandal Belgravia, where I don't think it's as good as either of those 2 episodes, because those are, I think, my 2 favorite episodes of Sherlock are The Great Game and A Scandal Belgravia. The Great Game, for you guys who don't remember, is the finale of season 1. Because it's something that the plot just kind of keeps itself moving, and it's constantly keeping you. You think you're watching it from this perspective of you're getting all the reveals, but you're being revealed information without having previous information. So then that new information that you just got suddenly means something else. You know what I'm saying? It just, something as, oh, John is cheating, thought about cheating on Mary, and now we've seen this therapist. Oh, shock! This therapist is the third Holmes sibling. What? Loved that. Really, really big fan of that. Blew my mind. I won't lie. I was eating breakfast, eating my Nutella pancakes because I'm
yummy.
Whatever. I'm eating my Nutella pancakes, and like she talks about that, and I was just like, what? I started choking. I was like, hold on,
that's
wait
pancake on my screen.
Yeah, I spit pancake on my iPhone. I was like, wait, hold on. And so it's really and this whole plot of the Devil in the White City comparison was a little, the H.H. Holmes comparison was a little on the nose. I thought, okay, well, that's essentially what they're building towards here, but I thought it was a nice reference to classic serial killers. Mm-hmm. And what's his name? Bloody Dobby.
Toby Jones. Love that guy.
Yeah, Toby Jones. He's exceptional.
So good.
He's really good in this episode. I'm a serial killer. You know what it reminded me of? What's his face from Hot Fuzz?
Timothy Dalton.
Timothy Dalton from Hot Fuzz.
I'm a slasher of crisis.
I'm of crisis.
Yeah.
I'm a murderer. Arrest me.
Yeah.
That's exactly.
I must be stopped.
I must be stopped. Yeah.
Yeah, I think he's outside of Moriarty, of course, probably the best villain that the series has had as well. But to be fair, like the Sherlock series has been lacking in villains because once you've done Moriarty, it's not a lot you can do after that. But it's good that they're finding new aspects of the source material to delve into, and you can watch the series as knowing nothing about the books at all, nothing about Arthur Conan Doyle's work, and still enjoy it. And even if you have read the books cover to cover and know everything about them and may be able to guess a couple of the twists and everything, there's still new aspects. They still do give you twists and changes to the formula so that even Sherlockians are able to get into it as well and find something new and endearing. And I think it shows that Moffat and Gatiss are huge fans of Sherlock Holmes. And when the show becomes more about those two as writers, as it did with Series 3 and The Abominable Bride, that's when the chinks in the armour start to show, I think.
And I think what made, I think the episode could have ended stronger, perhaps. I think it had a lot of callbacks that I wasn't into. I thought it was a great way to open up this episode with Mary being there but not being there. I think that was a great device that they used.
I actually think that was my least favourite part of the episode. I don't like the idea of ghost spunky detective Mary being around. I think it was put to effective dramatic use at the end, but then when she comes out with where every line of dialogue is a quip or a sarcastic comment, that's not a character. I think the idea is good.
Yes.
But when you just make her spout nothing but Tumblr quotes, there's nothing really there, and Series 3 pandered to the Tumblr demographic.
Yes, and I think having Sherlock and Moriarty kiss definitely proves that. I hate that episode so much. I do think that
it was funny, but it's so fan baiting.
I was irritated. With the whole Ghost Mary thing, I do think it was a nice way to allow the audience. Because you probably, a better filmmaker probably could have done Watson's inner monologue in a way that wasn't so on the nose. But I think for someone just cut the AC on or the vent on in my room.
Yeah, I heard it.
But yeah, gosh, cut it off. Anyways, but I'll switch your thought. Yeah, but for a way so that all the audience members, all the people watching, some probably younger than others, can keep track and make sure everyone knows and everyone's on board with Watson's transformation, so that when Watson does go from dropping his kid off with his unknown friends, and to being best friends with Sherlock Holmes again, I think it's a nice transition, and I think Ghost Mary's there to help with that. So you're right, she's a good plot device. I'm not a fan of all her quips, though. You're right. maybe it's just because Sherlock's been so trash recently. To have this episode be on par, I think this episode's as good as some of the episodes we got in season 1 for sure. I just really like the concept of watching Sherlock physically break down and go to his breaking point because he needed John to, he needed to be so desperate that John was there to get him. You know what I really hated this entire episode?
What?
Mrs. Hudson. Hated her so much.
Love Mrs. Hudson.
I don't know if it's Una Stubbs' performance, and I know that's like heresy to question the talent that is Una Stubbs. I think I'm saying her name right.
Yeah, Una Stubbs.
But because I know everyone goes on to how amazing she is, and I've only seen her in Sherlock, so I can't speak for everything else that she's done. But some of the lines that she had to deliver were just atrocious. Maybe that's more on Moffat than her, but let's have Miss Hudson be the cool race car driver, and let's remind everybody that she used to be a drug dealer. And no, John, you don't get the car. But at the end, oh, John, yes, you guess who does get the car? No, yay! How cool is that? I'm like, just move on, just get over that, please. I wasn't a fan of the Mrs. Hudson stuff.
Yeah, I think that was maybe trying a little bit too hard, but I don't know. She makes it work, and Una Stubbs makes it work, I think. But hey, so you're looking forward to the final problem, the last episode of Series 4?
I don't know. I feel like I'm going to see Moriarty again, and that makes me scared, because I kind of don't ever see him again in the show ever.
Fair enough.
I think it makes way more sense for him to have just died on that roof and it be done with. But when it gets to the point to where 4 years later we're still trying to concern ourselves with how Moriarty did certain things, you know what I'm saying? And granted, he has yet to been mentioned. Like he's been briefly mentioned this season, but I feel like we're waiting to see him again, and I'm scared because I'm already not a big fan of how Andrew Scott portrays Moriarty. I way much prefer the Jared Harris version in A Game of Shadows, that Robert Downey Jr. movie. I don't know. I can't watch Andrew Scott and take him seriously. He's not threatening to me, which I think is maybe he's not supposed to be, but I don't find him intimidating. I don't think everyone's like, oh, he's such a dangerous man. I'm like, is he really though? I feel like if you decked him in the mouth, he'd be fine. You know what I'm saying? Like I feel like if you threw him off a building, he'd be okay.
Fair enough. Or if you shot him in the face, he won't get back up.
That's what I'm saying. I'm like, what if we kicked Moriarty in the dick? Would he be? I feel like he'd just fall over. And he always talks about... We're going to have
Rogue One conversations again where everyone's balls just get destroyed. Can you imagine the cliffhanger of Series 1 is not Sherlock pointing the gun at the bomb, at the bomb vest. He just points it at Moriarty's balls.
It's like, I guess you've considered mine. Like you think Moriarty looks at the bomb and then he realizes the red dot. He looks down at his balls. It's just a giant red dot there. He's like, oh.
Oh my.
It's like when today's not your day. And instead of him killing himself at the end, he just shoots himself in the balls.
So, I think we've improved Sherlock Series 1 somehow.
BBC, call us. Please.
Do it.
Please. New writers of Sherlock. I got you.
Yeah, we'll do Series 5.
I got you.
Yeah.
Series 5.
Is there anything else homework-wise you wanted to talk about?
No, I don't have anything else.
Okay, I've got a couple of films, because at the moment I'm catching up on all the 2016 films that I missed, so I've actually watched 20 films in the past week, but I'm only going to go over some of the more theatrical ones, the ones that are actually out at the moment that you can see if you wanted to.
Right on.
So, just a couple. I saw Collateral Beauty.
Oh.
Right, do you know about this, Trey? Do you know about Collateral Beauty?
I know a lot about Collateral Beauty, including the film's final shot, apparently. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so for those of you who don't know, Collateral Beauty is from the director of Marley and Me, Devil Wears Prada, and also One Chance, which is the Paul Potts biopic. And Paul Potts was the opera singer who won Britain's Got Talent. And it's literally a 90-minute commercial for Britain's Got Talent. It's just a trash film. And Collateral Beauty...
I like Marley and Me.
No, but
have you ever seen it?
Nah,
but I like Marley and Me.
It's not great. But, yeah,
okay.
This okay, so Will Smith is an advertising executive. He's a real genius at advertising and connecting with people. And what happens is that his daughter dies. And what happens is that his best friends at this company, played by Edward Norton, Michael Pena, and Kate Winslet, think, okay, let's not help him through his troubles. Let's not try and communicate with him. What we'll do is that we will hire a private detective. We will. We know that he writes letters, so let's break into a mailbox, which is a federal offence, and we'll find out who he's writing to. And it turns out that Will Smith is writing to love, time, and death. These three abstract concepts. So what they do is that they find these three actors, and they ask them to pretend to be love, time, and death to talk to Howard, who is Will Smith's character, Howard. And what happens is that they have conversations in public, and they film these conversations, but they Photoshop or CGI out the actors, so it looks like this guy who's on the verge of a mental breakdown after the death of his daughter. So it looks like he's talking to thin air, he's going absolutely insane, and they use this to get him fired from his job so that they can get the partial ownership of the company. And all the while, the movie's
really, really good friends.
The movie
by
is,
the way, just exceptional friends.
The movie is bending over backwards, trying to say how this is absolutely the right thing to do. And it's always, and even once the jig is up and Will Smith's character knows what's going on, he basically just looks at them all and says, "You did the right thing. You did the right thing." And you can tell that was maybe just something from rewrite saying, "Yeah, we need to make this not seem like the most deplorable, most reprehensible thing ever." And then, I'm just going to spoil the film, because it's one of those things where you have to talk about it. And then it turns out that the three actors really are time, death, and love. It turns out that they actually are these abstract concepts. And it's just, the film wants to have its cake and eat it, but it also forgets that the cake is full of poison and herpes. So it's just really, really poorly conceived from a conceptual level. The performances, like Will Smith is really, really powerful in the film, but that just serves to undercut how terrible the rest of the film is around him, because he's just a man who's completely broken, and the main characters are just trying to break him down even further. There's a subplot where he meets this Naomi Harris at this what would you call it? This self-help group where people who have lost children go to help comfort each other and to get their feelings out in the open. And then there's a massive twist at the end where it turns out that even though these two are talking to each other like they have never ever met before, it turns out that they are husband and wife, and the daughter that they lost is the same daughter, and they've just been talking to each other like strangers for no reason other than to have a twist at the end of the film where it turns out, oh, surprise, we got you. It's so much more concerned with having twists and shock reveals that it never feels authentic. It feels so manipulative. And even the title, Collateral Beauty. Let's get
that twist, but that twist feels like the plot of its own movie, you know? Like you have the movie open and it's just these two people sit on the bench and they happen to start talking to each other. And we as the audience don't have all the information. You know, that could work. And to talk and, you know, and they, you know, and then you can have the kind of from like flashback and say, you know, they can have a big fight. And, you know, things until they be revealed, and then flashback, they have a big fight, and then, I don't know, then they break up or whatever, and then cut to them finding each other and sitting on the bench. You know, that can work, and it'd be cliched, but it can work. I haven't seen the film.
The reason that they talk like strangers is that when they got divorced, because it's like 90% of couples after the death of a child get divorced or something. So there's a statistic like that. And when they get divorced, Will Smith's character hands his now ex-wife a note saying, "I wish we could be strangers again." And she takes that very literally and acts like a stranger to this guy. So she's even more of a method actor than the three actors who are playing Love, Death, and Time.
So she's just being a bad person.
Yeah.
She's just, I wish we'd be strangers then. Well, fine. Then I'm not going to help you console the death of your daughter.
Yeah, I will I will not break character for a moment because we need this twist to work, god damn it. The only person who actually seems to call out the characters on their bullshit is Keira Knightley, who plays Love, and even then it's just so that Edward Norton can convince her to go along with the idea, and the two can have a subpar romance and stuff like that. And what are the odds? The person who is speaking with the time actor is Michael Pena, who is also dying, and he's speaking to death, Helen Mirren, and he is dying, and Kate Winslet is running out of time to have a child, so she's talking to time, and it's so. I can see on paper
because you're really ranting here, so I'd imagine you didn't like the film. But how many potential Oscar clips were in this movie of where just like, look at this person give such a great performance, look at the Oscar clips, because there's always an Oscar clip.
Yeah.
It's like, look at it.
There's a lot of those, including like one from Naomi Harris where she does the title drop of Collateral Beauty, which honestly feels like, let's get two words that sound great in a title, throw darts at it, and Collateral Beauty. Yeah, let's just make that movie and somehow put it in the it's absolutely, it's so poorly conceived, and I didn't think that Will Smith would make a poorer career decision than Suicide Squad this year, but he did with Collateral Beauty, which is kind of an achievement in and of itself. I liked Jacob Latimore, who played Time. He was good.
Me and my friends have this recurring joke about dropping titles in movies, because we were talking about Rogue One and how they dropped the title of Rogue One in Rogue One.
Yeah.
And we were like, how funny would it have been if they were in the planes, like, what's your call? So they're like, it's Rogue One, a Star Wars story.
That would have been really
and then Galen Erso, like, as he's dying, he puts his hand on Jane. He's like, Stardust, you truly are. They both look at the camera. A Rogue One, a Star Wars story. Yeah. And we just keeps dropping the full title of the movie.
But it's got the same issue as Passengers in that it knows that the main selling point of the story is something that audiences, I guess, kind of completely hate, so they hide it in the trailer. So if you watch the trailer where there's just a load of domino shots and actor shots, like with Passengers, I saw that as well. Don't know if I really want to elaborate on it, because I thought there were some redeeming elements to it, but there is a twist in the film that is not in the marketing, and it's so poorly conceived and so tone deaf that I don't really think it works. But yeah, Collateral Beauty it stinks. It's terrible.
Do you mind just briefly telling us what the twist is? Yeah. I don't feel like watching Passengers.
In Passengers? Okay.
Spoilers for Passengers. Yeah.
Okay, basically, if you watch the trailer, you'd think that, okay, Chris Pratt and Jennifer Lawrence woke up early on this spaceship, and then they fall in love, and they're 70 years away from the journey, so they're going to die in the spaceship. What happens is that Chris Pratt wakes up on his own. He wakes up, and nobody is around on the ship. So he tries everything he can to go back to sleep. He tries to get into the crew bay, which is like fortified. He can't get in. He is going to die on this ship unless he's able to. He's basically just going to be alone for the rest of his life. So he falls in love with Jennifer Lawrence, who's sleeping in this pod, and her name's Aurora, because, Sleeping Beauty, Aurora, Princess. We're clever. We're profound. Sorry.
Ask me what it means.
Ask me what it means. And what happens is that he stalks her because he's able to access the database of all of these people who are in hibernation on the ship, and he falls in love with her by stalking everything that she does. And he goes insane, and he decides to he deactivates her hibernation pod and doesn't tell her that that's what he's done. So the two fall in love, and it does feel like, when at some point Jennifer Lawrence's character does find out, and it's horrifying, and she really sells it, and there's a really powerful scene where she beats the crap out of him in his sleep. And it's actually really powerful stuff, and it's like very understandable reaction because he's kind of ruined her life and condemned her to death on this spaceship. But then the movie is like, oh, it's actually a really romantic love story, and it's you need to forgive him. And no, this is a horror film. This is a thriller. What? This is not a romance. And then it just goes all like cliche at the end when Chris Pratt has to sacrifice himself, but then it turns out he's alive, and she resuscitates him, and then she's given the option to go back into the hibernation pod, but she loves Chris Pratt so much, so she'd rather die and stay with him on the ship. And no, it's pants. Like there's some good bits to it, and I think the first act where it's just Chris Pratt on his own, he carries the film. He is. I was gonna say, really good.
It sounds like I Am Legend, where instead of Will Smith going crazy and getting himself trapped and having his dog die, he just goes crazy and condemns someone else. That's a cool premise.
It is.
That's a cool idea to like say, oh, like because you think Chris Pratt, like, oh, he's gonna be the hunky here, but like no, to have him be like this kind of unhinged guy after being woken up, that kind of that sounds like a really smart idea to kind of subvert expectations.
Yeah,
maybe don't market it as this really weird sci-fi movie then.
Yeah, it feels like the best episode of Black Mirror never made until Jennifer Lawrence wakes up. I think that this feels like the original draft of the script was a thriller. But then when Sony, who did the film, looked at that $110 million budget, when they looked at that budget, they thought, no, we cannot do a dark Twilight Zone-esque thriller and get our money back. So I think that I have a feeling that the whole Chris Pratt alone on the ship and growing a beard and being on his own and going insane and talking to the Michael Sheen bartender, who's really good, he's really funny, I have a feeling that was meant to be revealed in the third act. That was going to be a third act twist reveal. And if that had been the case, we honestly could have a really, like, a great sci-fi thriller film. But as it stands, it's just a really mediocre and tone-deaf romance that walks like a thriller. It's not great. There's some redeeming elements to it, but it's not worthwhile. And once you know the twist, it kind of takes a lot out of the film. But the film... I'll talk about one more film. There's another one I saw, but we'll punt it to our discussion of the best because we mentioned it before when we were in an edit point. But the film that is surprisingly better than Collateral Beauty and Passengers is Monster Trucks. Do you know about Monster Trucks?
Yeah, no, I know about Hold on, let me write this down. You said we're going to talk about Monster Trucks.
Monster Trucks. Basically, this is the film that there were news stories a couple of months ago that Paramount Pictures were going to lose $100 million on Monster Trucks because it was going to bomb hard. And that's a shame, because Monster Trucks is better than all of the Transformers films. It's actually a pretty fun kids film. It's not like a profound or existential deep crisis and looking at emotions like Inside Out or Up or Toy Story and other like family films. It's not for the kid in you, it's for the kid next to you. It's for that kid who's going to be psyched playing with toy cars. And it's like that. It's kind-hearted.
But does that excuse poor filmmaking though? Because I hear that excuse a lot. Like people are like, they say the same with like movies like Minions, where you see like for pets, where it's like, oh, it's not for you. It's for a little Timmy. Like, well, little Timmy deserves something better than Minions.
Yeah, and he'll get it with Monster Trucks, I think. Now, no, this is not Oscar worthy, and I know that you say just fun does not equal quality, but like a lack of fun does not automatically mean it's good either. Like I think that you can have a balance. I think not every film needs to go out and try and be the best thing in the entire universe. If you want to aspire to that, go for it. But I think Monster Truck... You should try and strive to make a good movie, though. Yeah, it's honest with itself. It's basically... It's Monster Trucks, where tentacle monsters from underneath the Earth's core getting inside Monster Trucks and do elaborate stunts.
Would you say it's like the first Ninja Turtles in that way, where you're like, it's not going to win any awards, but it's pretty. It's like it's a decent family film. Cause that's how I feel with the first Ninja Turtles.
I feel that about the second Ninja Turtle films. I think that the first one's not very good, but the second, Monster Trucks is probably on par with Out of the Shadows.
Okay,
I'd say that. I think Lucas Till is just your average, everyday 25-year-old high school student, but he's got real chemistry with this CGI blob tentacle creature. There's some really good action sequences and some really good vehicle stunt work. It's refreshing to see Jane Levy in a film where she's not being horribly beaten, tortured and covered in goop like in The Evil Dead or in Don't Breathe. And I think it's fun seeing comedians like Rob Lowe or I forget his name. He's in Brooklyn Nine-Nine. I can't find his name, but there's a who's who of comedians in this. Danny Glover's in it as well. He plays a mechanic and he's really fun. It's just a fun kids film. It's honest with itself. It has a list of objectives that it wants to do. It wants to have contrived action set pieces with these vehicles and these aliens. It wants to have a cute relationship between the high school student and this creature, and it wants a slightly environmental but weirdly like out of place story about looking after the environment and everything. It's weird, but it's fun, and I thought it was honest with itself and it was fine, and I thought it's better than the first like 4 Transformers films.
Let's put that in the trailer. Look, it was fine.
Just
put that out.
It was fine. Yeah, it was fine, and I think it's depressing that
like it's a poster of La La Land, and it's just like fantastic, amazing, 5 stars, the best time I've seen in years, you know. And then Monster Truck.
It's fine.
Look, it was fine.
It's fine.
Like look, comma, no, it was fine.
I'm not gonna say like go watch Monster Trucks instead of La La Land, but if you've got a 10-year-old kid who wants to go to the movies, they'll have fun with Monster Trucks.
Take them to Star Wars, like for Christ's sake.
If they've already seen Star Wars, then maybe go take them to see Collateral Beauty. Let's go for that.
Take them to see a Monster Calls. Jesus Christ.
Monster Trucks versus a Monster Calls.
Hey, well, Monster Calls only made like $2 million this weekend here in the US, which is
opened at 13th.
It's like this and Kubo for just fantastic movies that people aren't seeing, which is we'll get to it later. We'll get to Monster Calls later.
But yeah, Monster Trucks, it's a Nickelodeon film, so it is kind of like in that vein. But you know what? It's fine. It's fun. Better than Passengers or Collateral Beauty or all the Transformers films. I'm not going to defend it to my grave or anything. I'm probably going to forget about it in a few months' time. But it was fun. It was fun.
All right, Trilbee. Well, then I think it's time we get to our feature presentation.
What?
Dun, 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 dun. These are the best movies of last year. That's my
so close.
Recovering with my because I had a cold pretty much all of last week. I sound like Bruce Wayne legitimately for like most of last week, and so like I'm still getting over that kind of. I don't know if you can hear it. My singing voice is still bad, and I can't sing. But yeah, these are our 3 top best movies of 2016. Keep in mind, now how I approached making this list was, I went into this, if it came out, if it was released to the public, whether it be limited release in 2016 from January to December, that is what I count. Movies that carry over from 2015 were on my 2015 list. You know, which is why, you know, I think I tweeted out a certain movie and I said, oh, this is one of the better films I've seen this year. And they're just like, and some douche was like, the year just started. I'm like, you know what I mean. 2016. Like, oh my God. Ugh. You know, and for example, a film like The Revenant carries over from 2015, but a film like Kung Fu Panda 3 does not because it came out in January 2016. That being said, I think number three for me was very difficult because I was like switching between like 3 different movies. As much as I love Kubo and the Two Strings, I don't think it has the rewatchability factor that I've wanted to have. Keep in mind, I haven't gone back to it since I saw it in the theater, and I think that's because I keep going back to Captain America: Civil War. Like what? I really, the more I watch Captain America: Civil War, the more I enjoy Captain America: Civil War. And I think the same goes for the movie Lights Out. I don't know if you've seen Lights Out yet.
Not yet.
It's a horror film. I've talked about it on the show before. I genuinely enjoy that film like with a passion. I really dig Lights Out. Like that weekend was such a good weekend for movies. I think Lights Out and Star Trek and Darkness, Star Trek Beyond came out the same weekend. I'm like, what a good weekend to go to the movies, guys. Go check out those movies. Those 3, Kubo, Civil War, and Lights Out, all of which I've talked about extensively on the show. But Civil War especially, like I said, I think it changes the game of superhero movies to a certain extent. I'm really interested to see what happens now in the MCU now that this has happened. I'm really excited to see where Infinity War goes from here. And I'm also excited to see if the Russo brothers can get the trifecta, can get that solid trilogy, you know, of good movies. Because they did Winter Soldier, Civil War, they're getting better. So, what do you have for number 3, children?
Okay, well, because from the UK, there's a lot of films that are being lauded at the Golden Globes and the Oscars and all that stuff that haven't even come out here. Yeah, like Manchester by the Sea, Live by Night, although I did get a early screening of that. It's alright. It's not great. Didn't really have a lot to say about it. And also La La Land, which I have seen, but it's a 2017 film in the UK, and it's awkward. Like The Big Short, Trumbo, and Room, those came out in 2016 in the UK, but I'm not going to count them here. Let's go for the American release dates. And there's also a lot of films that I have yet to catch up on. Over the next few days and weeks, I'm going to be catching up with all of the films that I've missed, including some of the really, really bad ones. So I do have material for my top 10 worst, like Gods of Egypt, and Legend of Tarzan, a few things like that. I also need to still see Sully.
Good movie.
Yeah, I've heard good things about it. And also, I want to catch up on 9 Lives, where I hear that its Oscar chances are quite substantial. The Purge 3, Imperium, I've just a few films like that. But for my number 3, I'm going to go for Don't Breathe.
Ooh, okay.
I
didn't love Don't Breathe as much as the rest of the world did, but go ahead.
There were so many 8 out of 10 films this year. There's a lot of great 4-star films for me, like The Nice Guys, Hunt for the Wilder People.
I don't mean to keep in... Oh, snap. You know what, Trilbee? I completely forgot about The Nice Guys. You're right. The Nice Guys is number 3 for me. I love that movie. Oh, man. You forget how good that movie is, man. I haven't seen Hunt for the Wilder People yet. I don't mean to keep interrupting you.
That's
I want to make this quick comment. I love... we can go back to The Nice Guys later, but, like, quick comment. I think, in my opinion, I had a better horror movie watching time with Ouija Origin of Evil than I did Don't Breathe.
Holy snap.
I really dug Don't Breathe. I thought it was what an inventive and original horror film, but in terms of like that horror movie experience, Ouija, I think I had way more fun at Ouija than I did. I think both are like an 8.5 out of 10 for me in terms of enjoyment level, but go ahead, keep talking about Don't Breathe.
Was it like, because Fede Alvarez, like, because it's his first original film, because he did the remake of The Evil Dead, which doesn't really feel like Evil Dead in tone, because that sort of always had its tongue in its cheek, but the Evil Dead remake was just a massive display of brutality and gore, but it never felt weightless or, like, it always felt impactful, like, the boiling water scene. Oh, God.
When he's in the restroom and he's like freaking out because he looks over there and she's like cutting her face, you're like, oh god, and then he has to like get the arm off and like she like cuts through the tongue and the tongue like splits itself on. I was like, I can't. I was like, oh god.
Yep. Yeah. And Don't Breathe is not as gory, but it is still just as horrifying, especially for some of the revelations it has in the third act. And I think
I'm not a rapist.
Oh god. Stephen Lang's so good in this film.
Yeah,
he's such a haunting presence. He's right there, Trey.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
I guess feel like that the blind guy is now listening in on this podcast. He's coming to your room and he's now trying to find you. But yeah,
who's there? You think you could hide from me? I don't know why he became Buffalo Bill all of a sudden.
See, like, relatively speaking, Don't Breathe isn't a very violent film, but the violence is done in such a way that it always feels substantial. It always feels impactful. And one of the best shots of the year is it's the shot when they go into the blind guy's house for the first time, and it's a really important shot as well, where it's a very long single take where you go all around the bottom floor with these people who are robbing this house, because not only does it just establish tension and mood and it's just really well done, but it also gives you, an audience member, the layout of the bottom floor. You know where everything is now. You know what these characters know. It's just really clever storytelling that it's just not... You don't get that with bloody found footage. I maybe I'm overrating Don't Breathe because I'm just so sick of found footage tripe, but that when something actually good filmmaking comes along, maybe I'm just going to lavish praise all over it, or maybe I just need to come to terms with my massive crush on Jane Levy. I don't know. I'm an engaged man now, so I can't really comment. But yeah, it's really well acted. The atmosphere is terrific. I think that the characters aren't exactly complex, and but they go in interesting directions. Particularly, of course, with the blind guy, obviously the movie's not condoning what he does. It's just simply portraying it and just showing the weird justified. Like, it's kind of like in Saw. Like, I don't kill people. I mean, I practically put guns to their heads and force them to pull the trigger, but I don't kill people. It's this weird psychology of people, and it gets Don't Breathe seems to understand that in its main villain. And the sound design is Oscar caliber. Of course, with a movie where the main villain has no vision, so he can only hear, and he's hearing out for these people and sniffing out for them as well. It's really, really well done technically. This is what happens when you get a good studio horror film. Like, you've got a decent amount of money at like $10 million, which isn't a lot, but for horror, it's like one of the higher budgeted horror films in recent years. And it just shows what happens when you invest real talent and money into a horror film. You get gold like this.
I think my favorite shot of the film is still, and it's in the trailers, but I think the way seeing it in the context of the movie works a lot better, because it's the guy makes it back into the house, what's his face has just died, she's freaking out, and he's like, the boy, the preppy boy, the virgin boy, whatever his name is, he's like, we gotta go, okay, it's okay, we're good. And then they work out this plan of what they're going to do, and how it's like, well, what about this, and this? And it's like, oh, we can get it this way. And they get, I think it's all done in one take, and they get out and they start walking toward the door, and like, the door just like swings open, and I'm pretty sure I crapped myself. Like, I'm pretty sure I was like, ah. And the best part of that is when you could just hear a pin drop. Mm-hmm. Like, it's so brutally silent in the movie. So I think that's where you're right with the sound design. Like, it's brutal. It's like creepily silent. Like, there have been like only certain moments of silence in the movies this year that have like gotten to me. One of which is in La La Land that I'll get to later. But like. And then like, and it's just so tension filled, and like he has the gun pointed, and like, I as an audience member was just sitting there, like covering my mouth, and was like, don't make a noise. Yeah. As the fat kid in hide and seek, I knew not to make noise with my mouth. I was just like, oh god, don't make a noise. And you're right, that the movie did have, maybe what killed me with the film is that A, I felt like it didn't want to end, and B, it felt very cliched. Like, as a horror movie experience, it's fantastic, but looking at it as a film, I think I have issues there, as of where a film like Ouija does have more jump scares than Don't Breathe does. Don't Breathe is definitely a smarter, more well-made horror film, but at the same time, Mike Flanagan's such a talented filmmaker. But
I still need to see Hush.
I
might even because I think
might even be a number 4 on my list. I'll be honest with you.
The main thing that's preventing me from watching it is because just getting time away from my girlfriend to watch it, because if she doesn't want to watch it on Netflix, we're not watching it on Netflix. But she's out of town for the moment, so I'm able to watch it. I might even just watch it as soon as the podcast is done. It's like 3 o'clock in the morning here, so
I was say,
nice and dark.
Good luck. Yeah, dude, it's love that movie. Beautiful. And I just think that, because we're going full spoilers. Of course one character's gonna have to die, and of course the guy comes back, and of course the guy doesn't die and gets shot, and it just does this and this. Another a great moment though is when Roxy's her name. She's walking out of the house and she's like, "You can't get me, the sun's out," or whatever, blah blah blah, and then the dog comes running out the door. And she's just like, "Oh fuck." I was like, that's I'm like, that's the best. Have you seen The Shallows, Trilbee?
Yeah. That's another one of those 4-star films in my opinion.
Yeah, where you're like, oh man, it's a sense like if they just wanted to remake Jaws and call it The Shallows, I'm like, that was really like when I watched out The Shallows, like that was surprising. That's an 8 out of 10. That's surprisingly good. There was a lot of those this year where like that, like it was like that. Rogue One, Magnificent Seven, of like, oh yeah, that was good, movies of Finding Dory, where like that was a good 8 out of 10 movie. Yeah. Doctor Strange. There's a lot of those. There was a lot of crap, definitely, but there weren't a lot of 10 out of 10s. I think I gave like 2 or 3 10 out of 10s this year.
Yeah, I gave 2. Yeah. But that could change in the coming weeks when I catch up with more films. Like Daniel Blake is meant to be, it's just a really high-profile British film that's meant to be amazing, but I've not got around to seeing it yet.
I still want to see Eye in the Sky, so...
that's really good as well. That's another real tense, like 8 out of 10 film. Don't double feature it with The Shallows, though. 2 very different in terms... it's very different in terms of tone.
One movie doesn't end with Blake Lively standing on top of this barge, like pointing at like this shark swimming through like the guts of whales, and she's like, "Hey, fuck you!" Pardon my French, and like shoots the water, causes the water to explode, and the shark gets away, and she makes it short. You're just like, "Yeah, fist bump."
Now, Eye in the Sky ends with Helen Mirren surfing a drone, going to Osama bin Laden's hideout and surfing it into his cave and exploding.
Oh man. Is Stewie Griffin there also?
It's a surprise. Actually, it's surprisingly good when watching it with The Shallows. They're very common films.
It's all done in one take too. So it's like she actually did that stunt, which is crazy because she's like 95 years old.
Yeah, and then after that, she was like, "Woo! Want to do a Fast and Furious film?"
Yeah. Oh, we already talked about the Trash and the Furious trailer last episode. Okay, so
your number two.
Yeah, let me jump into my number 2 since we're moving. I think.
So wait, was Nice Guys your number 3?
Yeah, let's talk about the Nice Guys.
Yeah, because it's not on my list, so let's go talk about that.
Talking about a film that I watched it, I chappied it. I was
not supporting cinema.
I know the film did not do very well, but like I said, I was 16 years old. He was gonna take me to go see The Nice Guys. I would have either had to sneak into it or chappy it. So it's like, but man, it's so fun. It reminds me a lot of like Kingsman, of where it was like, what a fun, well-made, just snappy back and forth. Oh man, when Ryan Gosling, I can't get the image of Ryan Gosling on that toilet out of my head. I've
actually got a new favourite scene from that now. It was the toilet one, but it's something that's not really in the trailers. Is when he finds the dead body by the tree, and he's so like incapacitated, and he can't even get the words out, and he's pointing like,
oh my god.
So
and the little girl, the daughter in the movie is really good too. And when Russell Crowe, he's like, "Now I gotta break your arm." I was like, "No."
Yeah,
that movie. It's just I gotta go watch it again. Like it's one of those movies where it's a film that you gotta put on every 6 months or so just to keep yourself fresh up on that Shane Black humor. I still have yet to see Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, but I kind of want to now because Shane Black's back on my good side because he went and ruined Iron Man for me for a couple of years and then he brought it, and so now he's on my good side again. But I really dug The Nice Guys. It was just a fun, snappy back and forth. Oh, you know what? Speaking of other movies that I really loved this year, The Witch. Did you ever end up seeing The Witch?
That is on my... Because I tend to miss horror films at the set. I don't know why. It's just how it works out. So I normally catch up on horror films on DVD. And that is one of them.
We briefly touched on The Witch. You know, I'm gonna as we were talking, I'm gonna write this down. We briefly touched on The Witch in a pod. Well, actually, we went into great depth on The Witch on the episode that didn't end up going out. I think it was one of the episodes we recorded. Hopefully this episode gets out. And for those of you guys that don't know, it's definitely out there in the ether at this point. The Witch, it's a film set in 16th century New England. And it's essentially told like an old-timey folk tale, like an old-timey Grimm's Wives tale. And it's a horror film where you think, like, you watch like a Kenneth Branagh Shakespeare film and you think, oh man, look at all this Shakespeare talk. But this is like Shakespeare excuse me, this is like Shakespeare talk, like hardcore eyes and doth, and like there is not a single word in that screenplay. I don't know if I can find the screenplay, but I guarantee if you were to read the screenplay,
Witch,
you would
be
need
tripping.
a translator. It's no, they have like a 90-minute rap battle in the movie. It's weird. It's the whole thing's like done in rap. No, but it's really and it's that kind of detail that really creates the atmosphere. I think that's the best way to describe the movie is atmosphere. I think, and I talked about this back when we did the episode, it has the best jump scare of 2016. And I don't want to give it away. I really don't want to give it away because you haven't seen it yet.
Boogity.
I'm going to. It involves chopping wood. It's essentially, and this isn't the scariest part of the film, so it's fine. So now if you see it coming, now to be ready. It's a scene where it's just like it's a 90-second single shot of the camera slowly pushing in of this dad like chopping wood, and the chopping wood's not like going to rip the pattern. It's like chop, chop, chop. Silence. Chop, chop.
Then
chop,
Captain America
silence.
comes along and rips the wood.
Doth not take from my pile. It's like, yeah, and it's just like that. And you're just like, man, where's this going? And then out of nowhere, like you hear this, you know, like someone taking a breath, and then you hear boo, and it cuts to the daughter doing peekaboo with the baby. And you've seen that scene in the trailer, probably if you've seen the trailer.
Yeah.
And I jumped out of my seat. I was petrified. I was like, Jesus Christ.
Baby.
Oh. I was like, it's a false scare, but my God, if it's not effective. And I started laughing at the same time. I was like, oh, good job. And then if you see the trailer, you know what happens next. You're just like, oh God. It's such an unsettling movie. You definitely are going to want to shower after you watch it. You guys aren't going to know what this means, but hashtag Black Phillip. It's just like...
Hashtag the really, really Black Phillip.
Hashtag would love like to live deliciously. It's just, oh man, like it's. Trilbee, you really need to see it so I can talk to you about it. Like we don't have to be recording to talk about the movie. I just want to talk about it with somebody because no one I know has seen it, and I don't want to give anything away. But it's such a creepy film, and right now it's fighting the nice guys for number 3 spot at this point. Because I'm forgetting about all these movies that I saw this year because I didn't rate them on social media. Excuse me, but yeah, it was a film that I'm not gonna forget for a long time, and it also has a great theme about atheism and belief and what happens when your belief takes over logic and reasoning, and what that means to lose your faith. And it's really good.
Yeah.
It's a film that when you see it the first time, you're like, that was a pretty good, terrifying horror film. But like, the more you think about it, the scarier you get. Like, I'm pretty sure I was more scared of my lamp than my lamp being on than my lamp being off. Like, I was like, I don't trust my dimly lit lamp right now.
But
Sorry,
yeah,
I'd
I've
take
been
a
meaning to
sip of
catch up
water.
with it. Because a lot of horror films need to watch, like The Purge, election year, and Lights Out, and also The Witch, of course.
I think Lights Out, you should watch with a full crowd of people, like people who all love movies. That's a nice movie to watch with a lot of people that like movies. The Witch you should probably watch by yourself because it's very methodical in its pace. But I mean, those are the movies I appreciate, and it's really, I really dug The Witch. I've been talking a lot, so do you want to jump into what your number 2 is?
Okay, so number 2, I'm guessing that you just missed out on your list from what you were saying earlier, but I only gave 2 10 out of 10s in 2016, which is subject to change, who knows, but as of right now, my number 2 film is Kubo and the Two Strings.
Yeah, it's in my top 5, as I previously mentioned. It's a film that I think a lot of people need to see. To quote Jeremy Jahns, it's probably the best Legend of Zelda film we're probably gonna ever get.
Yeah.
And it's a film that you need to that I think, much like something like La La Land, should be appreciated in its craft. And I think that it's a film that you may not be able to go back to as much for the characters as much as you can for the story. It's something that you can go look back on and say, remember Kubo and the Two Strings? You know, it's a film that I think everybody kind of needs to see so that we can appreciate how beautiful stop motion can be and how useful it truly can be in storytelling. And it also, for all its cliches that you think it may have and how quote-unquote unconvincing or not unconvincing, predictable it can be, it still doesn't forget to take chances in certain respects. And I don't even want to give spoilers because so many people didn't see this movie, and it kind of breaks my heart because I really dug Kubo and the Two Strings.
Yeah, because 2016 for animation was fine. It was a fine year.
Zootopia was great.
Yeah, Zootopia was fine. Finding Dory was really good. What else did we have? Sausage Party.
That was pretty good.
Sausage Party was Secret Life of Pets was soulless. It's not bad, but
did you see Sing?
That doesn't come out for another 2 weeks here. I am bunkering down. I have zero expectations for
I've got my tickets already.
Oh, hooray. I'm
recording from outside the movie theater is what you mean to say, Trilbee.
I've been camping out here for 3 weeks.
I'm pulling a Phantom Menace. Sir, you can reserve your seats I don't care. I'll be here waiting.
So there's no queue. There will be. That's the point. But yeah, apart from Anomalisa, which is actually doesn't really count here because it came out in 2015 elsewhere, so it doesn't really qualify for this list. Apart from Anomalisa, no other animated film really stuck with me like Kubo and the Two Strings. With even the end credits, like the music that's playing, the cover of My Guitar Gently Weeps, and then the when they show the massive stop motion puppet of the giant skeleton, it was absolutely spellbinding from frame one to the end of the film. It was just, I loved the music in it. I loved all the voice acting in it. The animation is absolutely superb. It's probably the best looking stop motion film
that was
ever.
real water. That was definitely real water at that start. There's no way that was like clay. I don't know how they did it. They used real fish for some of it. I don't see why they can't use real water. Like, when she splits the ocean and the wave falls down, you're like, how did they manage? Unless they tricked us with CG, like how did they manage?
But it's such a great
that?
blend. Like even the CG looks like it belongs in the stop motion world.
Yes.
It's not so much about trying to impress you with effects. It's just making it all fit together. And I can't wait to get the Blu-ray for this, and who knows? Hopefully they'll release a steelbook or something, because because I only really get steelbooks for 10 out of 10 films. So let me just gobble up all that behind the scenes footage. So I love watching them do stop motion stuff. I say what you want about the box trolls, but the box trolls has a great end credits gag. I love
where
box trolls.
Where the two characters like, I mean, could you just imagine it's being moved around constantly like puppets? And it's just like it shows the two guys moving, and you see the hands moving around. And I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. Yeah. I don't like that movie though, but I do like that end credits bit. I think so. Let's jump to my two here. Not to briefly touch on Cuba. There's not a lot we can say without giving everything away. It's just I think it's a film that everybody should see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think as opposed to Anomalisa, which is a much more grown up and maybe more thought provoking film, I think that Kubo speaks
you need to
people.
be in a you need to be in a mood to watch Anomalisa.
And I think Kubo speaks to people on a more universal level as well. Like that's not a slight against Anomalisa. It's not trying to do that, but it has a very specific demographic or adult audience that it's targeting, whereas Kubo...
I'll say this with Anomalisa, if you haven't seen it yet, you'll know if you're down for it about 2 minutes in. Like, if 2 minutes in you're just like, I don't get it, you're like, you're probably not going to. It's a film that if you're not intrigued by the first 2 minutes, you're probably not going to be into what Charlie Kaufman has to offer here.
I think same with Inside Out. I just think that Kubo and the Two Strings, along with Inside Out, is just a film that people just really just should see.
Unless your name is Bandit Incorporated, where he's just like, yeah, it was fine. It's whatever.
Damn it, Bandit!
Oh, God, he knows really just how to...
You're not even here, and I hate it.
He loves Rogue One so much, and he's just like, yeah, Kubo Two Strings is fine, but I call Rogue One fine, and he has to fight 18,000 movies. By the way, Mr. Incorporated, I know you're not here, but guess who didn't like Rogue One, Bandit? Red Letter Media. Yeah, your boys that you kept using against me that whole episode. Yeah, they didn't like Rogue One. So we'll talk about that next week, don't you worry.
I kind of feel like I'm a kid in the middle of a divorce and I'm hanging out with a parent who's doing nothing but bitching about their ex.
I'll keep my mouth shut. But my number two is a film that, honestly, my number one and number two can switch back and forth, because these are the two films I saw this year that I said, this year being 2016, counting technically, that I said, these are some of the best films I've seen in years. Mm-hmm. These are films that I consider Whiplash and Steve Jobs good. You know what I'm saying? Oh, yeah. That I hope I can look back in a year or two and say, what a fantastic movie. The first of which being La La Land. And I know at this point, saying La La Land is a good movie is like saying water's wet. No kidding. It's just...
So you threw me through a loop there. I thought you were going to say Zoolander 2.
Independence Day Resurgence. No.
Pride and Prejudice and Zombies.
Suicide Squad. No. La La Land.
Money
it's
Monster.
A film...
What? Where did that come from?
Just these nothing movies that came out last year.
Like not even just deliberately terrible films, just... Really? That's your... Bad Moms.
I was going to say, Bad Moms of, or something. The Accountant, movies that, no one saw. No one bothered... Well, people saw, but, no one remembers. But La La Land was...
Goosebumps.
Shut up, Trilbee.
I'm sorry.
Whatever, stop.
Oh, shut up. But yeah, La La Land. Yeah, this is the film that I saw...
Ghostbusters, no. Okay,
this
so...
is 4 stars, no regrets. But this is... La La Land is the film that I saw earlier that I mentioned I would punt on, because this probably would make my... If I was doing a top 5, probably would make my top 5 if I did count it for this. But it's so recent for me, I'm still kind of settling on it.
It's a film that you have to think on, right?
Yeah.
And we'll go non-spoilers for La La Land, but I really appreciate that Damien Chazelle is making movies. You know what I'm saying? People like Mike Flanagan, Damien Chazelle...
Fede Alvarez,
Taika Waititi, James Wan, those guys of man, you're making genuinely great movies time after time after time after time. And La La Land finds it. It reminds me of what Hail Caesar really wanted to be, but La La Land really ran with it, because Hail Caesar was like this love letter to 1950s Hollywood.
Yeah.
But La La Land really felt like a love letter to old-timey Hollywood because it went there. And Hail Caesar felt very tone deaf in a lot of its presentation, and it felt more like the pilot to a TV show that should have happened as opposed to a 2-hour film. But La La Land, there's a scene, and it's the scene you've seen in all the posters where the character is just dancing. It's just a 5-minute dance on a park bench, and it's beautiful. And and the cinematography is some of the best I've seen in a long time. What really attached me to La La Land is that in all its grace, in all its beauty, it doesn't forget to be real. It's a very real film, and it feels very authentic. Nothing about it feels... The romance doesn't feel forced. The comedy doesn't feel forced, with the exception of one J.K. Simmons joke that made me just roll in my seat. But you know what I'm talking about.
Is that near the end?
Yes.
That was brilliant.
It was great. It was great, but it just felt like you didn't need it. I loved it so much because I love J.K. Simmons.
You need
it.
The film would be a 3-star film without it.
It was a great way to... But speaking of the ending, without giving anything away, the film isn't afraid to end the way it does, and it does so. The film is so earnest, and it has such conviction in the way they tell this love story of these two, dreamers, if you will, and I really want to go back and see it again so I can catch things I missed the first time around, because I was just mesmerized. The first thing that caught me right away was the cinematography, because the opening scene's a tracking shot, which is awesome always.
That opening shot, because basically, it's what you were saying with Anomalisa. If you're not into it within the first 2 minutes, then don't bother, because
the scene that got me in it though was not that opening tracking shot though. But sorry, go ahead.
But I think that opening musical number is so brazen about its intentions of being an old style 1950s 1960s musical in the vein of like a Guys and Dolls or a Singing in the Rain. It's so upfront about it that if you can't get into it from then there's the door.
You know what, you're right, it felt very Guys and Dolls and Singing in the Rain. I think that's the best way to describe it, really, is Guys and Dolls and Singing in the Rain. But meets Whiplash, actually. There's a bit of Whiplash in the film. I think that goes from Jamie and Giselle's A, passion about jazz, and B, passion for tragedy. It's a very tragic film. But what the scene that really got me, without giving anything away, is it's Emma Watson. No, it's Emma Stone getting ready or whatever. It's the scene where she and her friends are talking. I think it's also done in one take. It was that scene where I turned to my friend Christian and I said, I'm in love with this movie. That's what because that to me was when I was just like, okay, they're not just doing. That's when I felt like there was so much genuine effort put into the film. The tracking shot at the start is good, and it's fun and it's cool, but I didn't feel any weight to it. I guess maybe it's because the singing wasn't exceptional, but to see that scene where they're all getting ready is where I was just like, what a fantastic film.
Because the moment I fell in love with La La Land is actually, it probably took place a minute after you said you fell in love with it. It's like, it's in that same musical number, because the scene opens with Emma Stone's just got out the shower and she's looking in the mirror. And then she goes on a night out with her friends to try and cheer herself up, and then she winds up looking at the mirror again. Despite everything that she's been through that night, she's not feeling any better. She's still in the exact same place. She steps out the bathroom, and then it's just a music. It's an instrumental break, and then the chorus builds back up again, and dun 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 dun. Done as it builds, and the use of the drums, listen to the soundtrack with headphones, and that build, that is the slow motion shot.
I gotta see this movie again, man.
That's when I fell in love with La La Land.
And then, but I think what cemented me in what I said this might be the best film of 2016 was that dance scene I talked about before, just seeing the trailer. That's what I turned. I'm pretty sure the moment I did it, I was just like. I was that asshole that clapped in the theater. I was like, yes. I probably did something more quietly. I was like, yes. I was like 110% yes. Do that again. Oh my god! And from that point on, it's so mesmerizing to look at, and it's such a beautiful film. And much like Whiplash, it's a film that feels so energetic and so quick paced, but at the same time, when it wants you to feel almost dreading and kind of lethargic, you feel that way. And talking about moments of silence, there's a point of silence after a piano solo that you could... People were kind of like, you know, throughout the kind of whole movie in the theater, you could kind of hear, you know, some popcorn crinkling and people, you know, shuffling in their seats a bit if you really pay attention like I do for some reason. But in that scene, I could not hear anything. The entire auditorium was dead silent. And I feel like everyone was just kind of sitting there just like holding their breath and what was going to happen next. And it's a very tragic. It's a tragically beautiful film. I almost said Collateral Beauty. No, it's a tragically beautiful film. And
remember the La La Land title drop.
And I just and I think that tagline on the poster, you know, here's to the fools that dream or whatever, really fits the point of the movie. I'm really excited to see what I think Damien Chazelle, his next one is a Neil Armstrong biopic.
With Ryan Gosling.
With Ryan Gosling, which I'm really excited to see what he's going to do because that's so different for him, you know? Like, but at the same time, I thought La La Land was going to be such a different take for him, so I don't know what his... I'm not sure if it'll become my favorite movie of all time, like, or what in my top favorite movies of all time, like Whiplash became, but it's definitely a film that I want to see again, and I want to just give me all that La La Land goodness, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, because with Damien Chazelle, he wrote La La Land like years ago when he first moved to LA, and then once he realised that a old style musical is just not going to get the funding, let's move on to something else. He then wrote Whiplash and then got that into Sundance, and then he returned to La La Land. So I think Whiplash is the more mature. It's the film that it's obvious that Whiplash came after Damien Chazelle had grown as a writer. Whereas I think La La Land is him more returning to his roots, even though it's his second main film. It's confusing if that kind of makes sense. So I think Whiplash,
that makes sense.
If I had to choose between La La Land and Whiplash, I probably maybe would pick Whiplash. But it's two very different things. Both have mind-blowing endings, but for very different reasons. Whereas I think Whiplash is an incredibly devastating ending. I think La La Land is more an ending built upon compromise and accepting and understanding, even when you're not happy with it.
I think if we were to fast forward, like 6 months in both films, I think they both end in suicide. If I'm honest with you, I don't want to give anything away with La La Land because, you know, with Whiplash, they foreshadow that drummer, I forgot the guy's name, but, you know, that drummer that became so successful ended up dying in his apartment with the needles or something like that because he couldn't handle the pressure, or something like that. Something along the lines of suicide because he couldn't handle the pressure of being so successful. I think that's exactly where Andrew's going in that movie. And where I think La La Land, I won't say what, but I do think a similar fate awaits our characters in a certain extent. That's just how I looked at it.
I don't think, without spoiling the ending, I think that it's going to be a lifetime of emptiness. Just knowing what could have been.
No, I'm gonna cry. Oh god.
Yeah, because that ending, the epilogue, is basically, let's watch the movie again. But but in a very clever, subversive way, and the ending moments were no dialogue. The ending moments, it is. I think Emma Stone is the standout here, but Ryan Gosling's terrific as well.
See, I think Ryan Gosling gives the best performance of the entire movie. I know he felt way more like a real character than Emma Stone did.
No, I think both are terrific, and I think Damien Chazelle is. I'm so glad that people are retrospectively looking back on Whiplash because they love La La Land so much. I think both films are absolutely terrific. As a theatre student, as someone who loves old-fashioned musicals like Guys and Dolls and everything, I just was completely on board with La La Land. I think it's absolutely superb. If I had to pick a favourite song, everyone's loving City of Stars, which is fine. It's decent, but I think when compared to, say, the Audition song...
I was going to say Audition's way better than City of Stars.
Audition or Someone in the Crowd or Another Day of Sun, which is the opening. There's also the planetarium sequence where they dance in the stars, but there's no lyrics to it.
I thought the film was going to lose me. I'm like, because I didn't like that planetarium sequence. I thought it just felt almost gratuitous. And so I thought, I'm like, oh no, is the film just going to kind of become this? Is the film just going to become them dancing around and being... And it doesn't go there, and I'm glad it doesn't go there. But the audition sequence is marvelous. And I don't know.
It feels like it's so surprising because with Tom Hooper's Les Miserables, like they place so much emphasis on long tracking shots to get the actor's performance and everything, but I felt like the movie lost so much because of that approach. But with La La Land, it does it because I don't even know how it works when it didn't work in Les Mis, but it's tough to pin down.
Well, a film like Les Mis feels very grandiose. It feels like it's trying really hard to be this impressive musical, but at the same time, with it trying so hard, it forgets to A, get a tripod, and B, it forgets to like back up and let the audience and let the characters breathe. There's a lot of Dutch angles and close-ups, and everything looks grimy and dirty, and you don't want to be in this tracking shot for that long. But a film like La La Land is, keep in mind I don't like the movie Les Mis, but like a film like La La Land is, you know, they're not afraid to pull back and let there be a lot of quote unquote dead space in the screen where it's just the skyline and these two little characters dancing in the lower left-hand side of the frame, only to have then a few scenes later have just a single shot of Emma Stone's Beauty and the Beast is coming out so soon, so
that's a musical, that counts.
Yeah, it'll be fine. It's gonna make $1 billion of Emma Stone just singing, and I don't know. I do see where the difference can be, because Les Mis is pretty much all told in song, but this one the songs are more sporadic. Yeah. It's a film. It's a musical not about music, and I think that's it's about music. It's a musical about music. I think that's actually a better way to put it. It's a musical about music that's also a love story. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I get you.
And every time someone's like, well, I'm not a big musical guy, but La La Land finds a way to do musicals differently. It's a musical tragedy about music and dreamings and just I love this movie.
Yeah, but I love the costume design. I love just the aesthetic of it all. I'm so surprised that it's the cinematographer who did American Hustle and Joy, which is directed by David O. Russell. I'm thinking, oh my god, this cinematographer, look what they can do when they've got a good director.
I like American Hustle.
Tell me anything about American Hustle.
It has one of the best opening title cards ever.
I don't even remember it.
Some of this actually happened. I love that so much. I think that opening title card sets the stage for what that entire movie is supposed to be. I also remember I also remember the scene where Bradley Cooper fuffles up Christian Bale's hair. I really dig that movie. Maybe I dig the performances more than I dig the actual story.
But that backfired. I was hoping you wouldn't be able to remember anything from it.
No, I told you I dig American Hustle, man. I like that movie.
Fair enough. I'm glad
you have that opening single shot of Christian Bale like fixing up his hair for like 2 minutes. Yeah, dude, I got you. I like American. When he beats Louis C.K. with the phone, oh my god. Sorry.
I like John Legend in this, surprisingly.
I hated him in it.
Did you?
See? Well, no, correction. I hated that I couldn't get over the fact that it was John Legend. You know what I'm saying? I felt like he was only in it so that we can get a John Legend song so that we can get more funding.
I actually like the John Legend song. I liked that song. Obviously, I'm not going to pick it above anything else in the music.
He's got a nice voice.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty cool. I like the keyboard solo.
Yeah.
Do you think Ryan Gosling actually played the piano, or was there
that was my biggest question walking in? I said, my bet is that every time it was just a shot of hands playing piano, cut to a stunt guy doing piano stuff. Like I would imagine that's what that was. They did the classic movie thing where they stitched the cuts together, classic Birdman technique, you know, and they just and while they panned over to the guy playing piano, they cut there, and then we see a stunt guy playing piano. And then maybe for certain scenes where like the piano wasn't too hard, they had Ryan Gosling play that. Then I thought that, and then I looked up, and apparently he's a pianist, whatever, or keyboardist. So
it's kind of like in in Whiplash, what Miles Teller did about 90% of the drumming, but when it was like some of the really intense close-ups, when it was just hands on the drum, just hands, or you don't see him in shot, there is a double. But I think 90%, probably 90% more than I would have ever done.
Yeah, it's like Amadeus. Yeah, where you're like Jesus. What's your number one there, Trilbee?
Oh yeah, I always forgot that La La Land is not my number one. Only because it doesn't kind of qualify. I'm going to be the most mainstream person in the world.
Oh my
Captain
God.
America: Civil War.
Oh, I thought you were about to say Rogue One. I was about to punch you in the face. All right.
I can almost see something coming through my webcam.
you just see like a half of black fist, and like, oh, Civil War is like, oh, never mind then.
So
yeah.
Oh great, now my hand's stuck in the webcam.
It's really great though, isn't it?
Underoos.
Like, one of my favorite lines of that film was quickly becoming, "Did it?" When the villain's talking to Martin Freeman, and Martin Freeman's just like, "Go ahead, please step out of line." Martin Freeman gets to ham it up for a few minutes, and he's like, "How does it feel knowing that your plan failed so terribly?" And he looks up, he's like, "Did it?" And I was just like, and like Martin Freeman gives him this look of just like wait, he gives him that Dr. Watson look of like, what is, and I just, that's such. That to me, you know what, Trilbee? I'll let you talk about this one. I've been talking for like the last 20 minutes. It's number one.
While you were talking, I just looked on Twitter real quick, and Jeremy Renner, who plays Hawkeye, of course,
he's dead.
He's put on Instagram.
Okay.
He put on Instagram. Apparently, there's an internet hoax that I died. Well, not from where I'm sitting. So he's just put a picture of himself on Instagram with that caption.
Nice.
So no, but he is not dead, thankfully. But yeah, I'm not sure if Captain America: Civil War is the best comic book movie or Marvel Cinematic Universe movie ever. I'm not sure. I think we need the test of time for that. But I am willing to say that it is the best justification for a cinematic universe that we've yet had. Because kind of like how you can't really massively appreciate Lord of the Rings: Return of the King without the two previous films building up to it. There's a lot of payoff in the Return of the King. There's when you get these huge,
there's a lot of 18,000 endings. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, there's a lot of endings to get through. It's like, there's a lot that needs paying off there, and Return of the King works as well as it does because you've literally spent 9 hours with those characters, maybe 15 hours if you've been watching the extended cuts. You've spent so long with these characters, so you are attached to them. And I think Civil War is doing something very, very, very similar, but it's also crossing different genres, and it's crossing different franchises and different characters and things like that. Like with Marvel Phase 3 and Phase 2, you've had like heist films, you've had space operas, you've had espionage films, you've had all of these genres crossing over together, and the fact that they can still come together for these massive events like the Avengers or for Civil War, and it still feels cohesive and it still feels natural and organic to the characters, I think it's an achievement on itself. But when you get something like Civil War, which obviously you get these spectacle films like in Avengers and Age of Ultron, where you get these huge clone armies that fight, and you can't take down the Avengers like that. So what do? You pick them apart through their insecurities, through their words, through their actions, and their clashing personalities. And even at the end of the film, there are just some disagreements and some differences that you just don't get over right away.
Yeah, and there was always this stigma of oh, Captain America and Tony are best friends by the end. Like, they're really not. Tony Stark thought Cap was ready to chop his head off, and that's a great scene, by the way, when Tony is just like, wait, don't, because like he thinks Cap is legitimately going to kill him, and in an act of true Captain Americanness, he get choked up. Cap just breaks Iron's arc reactor, and then Tony's like, "That my dad made that shield," and Cap drops it on the ground. I'm just like, Nomad? But my comic book nerd being aside, because I will say this movie is exactly what I did when I was like 6 or 5 years old. And those who've listened to the podcast long enough know that I still am 6 and 5 years old. If you know what I did last year with my Star Wars lightsaber, that's a story you can go back and listen to. But like, it involves the Flash and the lightsaber. But my cousin would bring all these action figures, and it would be like War Machine and Spider-Man and Ant-Man. He'd be like, well, wait, Ant-Man's gonna be all giant, and he'd pull out like this 6-inch figure of Giant Man, and he'd like be bigger than everybody else, and I'd be like, oh my god, and then Tony Stark would be like, pew pew pew. I think it was so sick.
But wait a minute,
like,
Spider-Man can't play with these toys. Oh yes, he can.
But like, and like, I remember telling them, I was like, but wait, but I was like, I think I was like 9. I was like, but wait, like Spider-Man isn't owned by like Marvel. And then he's like, no, dude, don't worry about it. Just worry about the toys. That's how we thought we were 9. But like, something that they did in this movie is something that I did when I was 6, and that you see War Machine flying around, and Spider-Man's on the back of War Machine's foot, swinging, and he has a Spider-Man pose, and I'm pretty sure I cried, because I was 5 years old again. I was like, it's like when you watch the Avengers, and you see them all fighting together, and you see Iron Man shoot Captain America's shield, and take out some bad guys, and then fly up, and Hulk and Thor fighting, and I'm getting emotional. I don't know if you can hear it in my voice.
Yeah,
I'm okay.
Voice is breaking.
Okay. Oh god, I'm 6 years old again. But that movie that whole airplane bit was so satisfying, especially seeing it on the IMAX screen. But sorry.
I think maybe a more apt comparison as opposed instead of Lord of the Rings. Let's say Game of Thrones, where you do spend people, I guess, they lose their minds across things that happen in Series 6. Series 6 is the latest one, isn't it? Yeah. I've only watched like 3 or 4 episodes of Game of Thrones, but hopefully you'll get what I mean anyway. In that,
dude, you're not wrong. Like season 6, hashtag Battle of the Bastards. Holy shit!
But let's was it Battle of the Bastards? Yeah.
Yes.
Let's say that you just watched. That was the very first episode you ever watched. Yeah, sure. Maybe it's great television, really well put together, really awesome, great, all of that stuff. I don't know what happened in it, but there's that surface level stuff. But when you've had 6 seasons of build up before it means so much more, and I think Civil War is able to capitalize on that brilliantly. It's not just mindless fan service, it's these characters coming together and working really, really well. Ant-Man's inclusion, Paul Rudd, he grounds Civil War so well. He is the everyman to remind you that these characters are celebrities in this world, and the way he meets Captain America and he won't stop shaking his hand. And he's like, Captain America, I know you too, you're great.
Yeah, dude. And he's like, hey, so thanks for thinking of me. Oh, man. And I love how, like, he thinks he's making this giant major sacrifice. I don't know, man. That just makes me smile. I was like, don't worry, guys. I'm going to save the day.
He's going to tear himself in half.
Oh, but in reality... He's just kind of like a distraction, but like he's so earnest. But he's like, "I'm the boss. I'm saving the day. I'm helping out Captain America."
I'm the boss.
It's a film, like I said, that the more I think about it, the happier I am that I saw it. I remember happy as when I got to see it like a month early. Oh, it was so beautiful. Oh, it was so enticing. It's Spider-Man though when Tony Stark was talking and Black Widow's like, mine's downstairs, whereas yours it's like Queens. And everyone, and the whole theater starts like clapping and cheering. They're just like, "Oh yeah, oh yeah." And then you realize Spider-Man's actually a 15-year-old kid who has to worry about his algebra test, but he suddenly has to go to Germany to fight Captain America. Like what? Like they actually did what? They actually did that? Oh my god! Yeah, sorry.
Well, even with Spider-Man, like when you think about it on reflection, even though he is on Team Stark, it's actually Steve Rogers' ideology that he sympathizes with, because they're not able to do the whole great power, great responsibility thing. But when he says if you're able to do things but you don't do them, that makes you responsible. That's Steve's argument. That's Steve's side.
Yeah.
And when you include stuff like that as well, it's not just let's get Spider-Man in here for a great action set piece. He is there for that, but it's adding more to this story. And this is one of the few examples where a movie has like completely surpassed the source material. Because Civil War, an iconic comic book, no question, great moments, but this is so much. Like, the actual conflict is so much. It's much smarter in the movie than it is in the actual graphic novel.
Yeah, it really. By the time it ends, I just felt like I turned to Christian. I said, "Everything's different now." He's like, "What do you mean?" I'm like, "They can't just be okay anymore. Like, they don't have an excuse for these not being fantastic anymore." He's like, "Marvel." I said, "No. Superhero movies in general they don't have excuse. Like, Batman v Superman has no excuse being that crap if Civil War was this good."
Yeah.
Like there's, and it's not even a matter of, oh, your universe is so early. I'm not talking about setting up universes or anything. I'm talking about, because, you're right. having that, decade of build up that the MCU has had really does help. But watching this film on its own, it's a genuinely good film. It's not just a good Captain America or Avengers movie. It's a really good film that has established arcs from the beginning. And the film opens with Cap, he causes this. He's the leader he's a leader amongst all this destruction and all these lives lost. And by the end, he has to accept that he is responsible for the deaths or he's not responsible. He has to kind of accept that death is around him and happening. With Tony Stark and his family, he has to kind of accept that that's what this world is. And Cap goes through an arc, and essentially, and Tony Stark has to learn that it's not. The world's not so black and white. There's these areas of gray, and even someone like Black Panther goes through his arc, and it's a film that, and the villain is I think Zemo's one of the better Marvel villains. He's not on screen long, and maybe it's just because I love Daniel Bruhl so goddamn much. I love that man. He has a film coming out pretty soon called The Zookeeper's Wife. I'm down. I'm just gonna go see it for him. It's him and Jessica Chastain. I'm sick. It's just, but it's it's like him and Loki are the only good Marvel movie villains right now. That's not true. Ultron was pretty fun. I love me some Ultron.
Abomination's fun as well.
I like Tim Roth.
As far as the Tim Roth CGI villain goes, he's fun.
Yeah. Ringo. No. I just think it's a film that I'm glad I saw. I want to see. I kind of want to go watch it again. I wish I remember my Netflix passcode, because I kind of want to go see it again. Civil War is fantastic. Yeah,
and even just the closing moments as well. The Avengers are not going to be the same after this. And
they're
Steve, and Steve and Tony have just completely. They're at odds with each other, but what we've got here is just an extending of the olive branch in their own way. Steve just can't help but be earnest and upfront about his feelings with Tony, and Tony is just, I'm going to give you a head start. That's
I do like that. Yeah,
I'm going to give you a running head start. I'm going to have to come after you, but I'm going to let you go. And then when he emerges out of the shadows and says that he'll be there, and then the music plays,
you're like, woo, get him, Captain.
And when you say that Marvel doesn't have good music, yet Captain America, the Winter Soldier, and the Civil War has just got that awesome taking a stand
every
theme.
Time someone says the Marvel Cinematic Music sucks, I'm like, please go find me the Alan Silvestri Avengers score. It's so damn good.
Or Craig Armstrong's Hulk music. Listen to The Flower.
God.
The Flower.
Look up funeral music from Thor: The Dark World, because that's some good music too. There's good music in these Marvel's movies.
And the Ant-Man theme feels like it should be at the beginning of Ocean's 11.
Yes. Yeah, dude.
Good.
But Taking a Stand might be the creme de la resistance.
I think so. Yeah.
That's it's such a good piece. It's so boring.
But this is just the culmination of a massive. It feels like the series 3 finale of a TV series that we have to wait 6 to 8 months for every single episode.
Yeah, it does feel like the finale of a TV show. Yeah,
and what's interesting now going into 2017 is that what's going to happen is that it wouldn't surprise me if before Spider-Man Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, which is the next Marvel film, we're going to have a trailer for Thor Ragnarok, which means we're going to have 3 trailer rotations at the exact same time. Yeah. Where this is going to be a different way of how we consume Marvel films now. And I don't know if that's going to impact how we view them.
Now that I know that Doctor Strange is going to be in Thor Ragnarok, I'm double excited. I think the reason I love Doctor Strange so much as a movie, it's an 8 out of 10 film, but I think the reason I love it so much as a Marvel movie is because it's set up done right. It's a great way to get us introduced to this kind of different aspect of the Marvel universe, and it's also there to say, oh, hey, but guess what? You thought this movie was pretty good? We'll wait for his other movies, his sequel, and then wait for him to be in the Avengers, and then maybe leading the Avengers, maybe even the Illuminati. He's gonna be working with Thor, and I'm just I'm 5 again. They keep finding new ways to make me 5 again. And Guardians of the Galaxy, I had no idea who those guys were. And I think that might be my favorite Marvel movie. If not, then it's Civil War. But Civil War's such a good movie.
Yeah, I think in terms of whether or not this is the best one, I don't know, but it's right up there with the original Avengers, I think. And I love Age of Ultron. I think Age of Ultron is a spectacular film. If it just can't be nearly as iconic as the original.
No,
But,
Age of Ultron falls crux to Joss Whedon not wanting to make a film that fits into the same universe as everything around him. I think that's where the film falls apart, because he clearly wants to have S.H.I.E.L.D. and all that stuff, you know what I'm saying? I don't know. I think that's... I still love Age of Ultron, but I think that's where the film falls apart for me.
Nah, but yeah, Civil War, it's so mainstream and boring to go with the most successful film of 2016, but it is just great storytelling, and it's so entertaining, and I don't think I had more fun at the movies last year.
Yeah. Oh man, I'm still getting back to that whole airport fight. Just the entire.
Remember
thing.
Star Wars on the snow planet?
Oh my god.
With
that
the
really
walking.
You guys ever seen that really old movie Empire Strikes Back? I'm like, he's 15. Of course, it's a really old movie.
Yeah.
Oh man, how many kids his age have seen Star Wars?
Does anyone have any orange slices?
I don't know why I love that line so much.
I
Does
don't
anyone
know.
have any orange slices? He's like a drunk guy.
I don't know either. But Psych, my actual number one is the Angry Birds movie.
I was gonna say what plot?
What?
twist? I do like going back to Civil War, going over good lines. Can you move your seat up? No.
Nope.
And then cut to Bucky like scooching over in the car. Oh, the movie has so many great moments.
When Steve kisses Agent 13, and then he turns to the car and they just both nodding in
Perfect.
approval.
Perfect. The editing there was flawless.
When they're both fighting Spider-Man, and then
Oh
that Red Falcon thing takes him away. Says, you couldn't have done that earlier? I hate you.
I do really appreciate the film was also rather generational. In that, you know, I talk about how I saw it and I was 6 years old again, but apparently, you know, I saw it with my friend and his dad. You know, we were just waiting for the go into the movie, and he saw the poster, like it was the giant kind of standee poster with all the faces looking at each other, and he said, "Man, you know, I remember reading the old Captain America Adventures comics, and in the comics, it was like, you know, because at this point I'd already seen the film because I got to see it early, but I was seeing it again, and my friend's dad was like, man, I remember, you know, seeing Captain America with the Vision and Scarlet Witch, and so Hulk was there, but Hulk's not in this one. That's okay." And he essentially described what was the first scene of the movie, and so I looked over at him during that scene. He was like getting really emotional. I said, "Oh, that's really nice." He got to be 5 years old again, reading the old Captain America comics, and I was like, "Good on him, man." So it is that kind of multi-generational film that it's a film for fans, but it's not a fan film. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it doesn't pander. It's all in service of its own overarching story.
It doesn't forget to tell that story. It's not a film that's like, look at us, look X-Wings, Darth Vader. No, sorry, I didn't mean to crap on Rogue One again. Sorry, it's whatever.
Well, so before we move on, just one, I know it's slightly skewed because not all of the films have got trailers yet, but which Marvel film are you looking forward to most in 2017? We've got James Gunn's Guardians of the Galaxy
Thor
2.
Ragnarok.
We've got John Watts' Homecoming
Thor
and
Ragnarok.
Taika Waititi's Thor Ragnarok. Yes, that is the correct answer, Trey.
Easily. I love Taika Waititi at this point. I haven't seen Hunt for the Wilder People yet. I'm going to. But, like, I hear it's fantastic. I love what we do in the shadows. I love Benedict Cumberbatch's Doctor Strange. I love the dynamic of Hulk and Thor.
Have you heard on the Doctor Strange Blu-ray? On the Doctor Strange Blu-ray, they're going to be doing more Team Thor stuff.
Yes. Could Doctor Strange be in it, please? Please.
I don't know.
Could we have what's his name? Can we have Daryl? Can we have Daryl meet Stephen Strange and like Thor's just chilling there? It's like, oh, this is my flatmate. This is Daryl, and then Doctor Strange's like, hi, Daryl. And like, it's like Stu from Hunt for the Wilder, from What We Do in the Shadows. It's like Stu from What We Do in the Shadows.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
So yeah, Thor. Right.
It's like, wait, I have to leave. It's like, no. Stu could stay. Stu gets to stay. I love. Oh, we're gonna shame you. Shame. Shame.
But yeah, I know that we've not had a trailer for Thor Ragnarok yet, but the Hulk is my favorite comic book character. So any film that he's in is going to be my most anticipated of the year. So.
Jeff Goldblum in a Marvel movie sounds beautiful.
Yeah, Tessa Thompson, Carla Urban.
Great cast, great director. Man, if it sucks, I'll be so sad, you know, because it's like you had everything going for you. Marvel, please let Taika Waititi make the movie he wants to make, because he's a very talented guy. Like
you don't hire Taika Waititi and get him to make a paint by numbers by committee film.
I'm just saying, I'm hoping, and thank God, you know, this isn't like an Edgar Wright situation where he had been dealing with him for 10 years. They brought him on clearly post cinematic universe, so hopefully they'll let him do a James Gunn or a Russo brothers. That really seems to be working for them.
They're not going to do a whole, okay, we start filming Suicide Squad in 6 weeks, David Ayer, write the script.
That is making me want to cough. Because I had to write a script for my short film, and the script's like 30 pages. That I started that thing in August. Like, I'm just like, and I'm like, I finished it like 5 weeks, like 4 weeks ago. Like, doing a script for a 2.5-hour movie in 6 weeks sounds like an absolute nightmare. I feel like I'd kill myself. I can't.
And the worst part is, I'm not even making that up. That is the story, basically.
No,
that's
which
the
is
worst
terrifying.
part.
Oh god, Trilbee, what a horror movie.
But we'll be talking about those next time, I imagine, in our top 3 worst films.
Oh, it's gonna be so fun. I might just put Rogue One in there just to piss Bandit off.
Oh gosh.
Okay.
So,
Trilbee, before I jump into number 1, what was your number 2 again? I forgot to write it down.
Okay, so just to sum up, my number 3 was Don't Breathe. Number 2 was Kubo and the Two Strings, and number 1, Captain America: Civil War. And your top 3, correct me if I'm wrong, The Nice Guys at number 3.
Yeah.
And number 2, what was your number 2?
La La Land.
La La Land. And your number 1?
My number 1, my favorite movie that I saw in 2016, technically, was A Monster Calls.
Woo!
And it's weird. They're 3 rather different films, though 3 very emotional films in different ways. I'll tell you what, I got teary-eyed in all 3 of these movies, all for very different reasons. One's a very beautiful film about accepting your past and knowing what humanity means. The other's a very fun musical, yet tragic, about moving on and dreams. And this one... A Monster Calls is about cancer, and it's really just about cancer, and I don't want to give anything away, because here's the true tragedy in A Monster Calls. It's not the fact that the mother's dying of cancer. It's not the fact that this little boy has to find a way to deal with the fact that these bullies at school, or Sigourney Weaver being his grandmother. No. The true tragedy of A Monster Calls is that it only made $2 million in its opening weekend. It was released nationwide, and it only got... because they did limited release, it did exceptionally well. Then they released it nationwide. It pulled a Steve Jobs, and it bombed. And it's heartbreaking, because A Monster Calls is such a beautiful film. It's such a journey. I think the best way to describe this movie is that the entirety of A Monster Calls felt like the first 5 minutes of Up, where it's just a constant kick to the dick of sadness. But it's not like... You ever seen the show American Dad? Hello, Trilbee?
Yeah, I'm listening.
Sorry, have you ever seen the show American Dad?
Oh, sorry, I didn't realize that was a question. I thought you were just talking about American Dad.
They did
They
did a James Bond parody called Tearjerker, where he made the world's saddest movie. And it's about like a kid in the Holocaust who's mentally challenged and has to take care of a puppy that's also dying. You know, just your typical stuff. You know, really sad stuff.
So that's the film that Roger would make.
Well, it runs the risk of being that film, but the film feels almost like a documentary in how real it is, but it's also very fantastical. You know, it feels like Bridget Terabithia done right, and where it's like, you know what's happening here isn't real. It's how this child is coping with this tragedy in his life. And it's how director J. I don't even know how to say his last name. I feel like I need to learn. Bonya. Is how he's able to capture emotion and just pure melancholy. And because you're really... I'll tell you what, there's a point in this movie where me and my friend were ready to just like the dam was about to break, and we were about to be drowning in our tears. The lump was in our throat. We were holding back tears, and if my watch had not beeped signaling the next hour in my theater, I definitely would not have been able to see the last 5 minutes of this movie because I just would have been just tears. And it's so powerful, and I don't want to give away any really much. The basic plot is that this kid's mom has cancer, and he's also, not to mention, he's also being bullied at school. He's just a genuinely crap life right now. And one night, you know, he's a very talented artist. You see him draw things all the time. He's very creative. And one night you see him, he's working on his art stuff, and this monster comes to him and he says, "Hey, listen, he's like, listen, I can help you." He's like, "Can you help me?" He's like, the monster's like, "Hey, listen, you called me here because I know you need my help." He's like, "Can you help me with my mom?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm going to tell you 3 stories, and by the time the 3 stories are over, I will have helped you with your mother. I got you." And he's like, "Sick." And so that's essentially the basic structure of the movie, is these stories and this lesson this child must learn. And it sounds so cliche, and when you first hear that, you're like, that sounds really cliche. But it's how the director handles it. It's how the writing is. And I guarantee it's the screenwriter Patrick Ness is the same guy that wrote the book. It's based on a book by Patrick Ness, and I hear the book's fantastic as well. And it's such a heartwarming yet tragic yet heartbreaking, yet it's a film that, like, it's understanding. It's just they take death and turn it into almost this beautiful thing that everyone kind of needs to deal with. They take death and personify it as almost a necessity in growing up, and it's really powerful like that. It's like Bridget Terabithia meets Inside Out, and so you'd be ready to cry. It's like I turned to my friend Christian, he said, "What if that was a Pixar film?" I said, "We wouldn't be here right now." So what do you mean? Like, we would have died of dehydration from losing all those tears. Because if this had been a Pixar film, guaranteed A, it would have made $2 billion, and B, it would have been like that College Humor video I saw where it's like, where the next string of Pixar films are just movies that all would make you cry, like 2 hours of a dog starving to death. You know, it's just, it's such a beautiful film, and it's a film that I'm not going to forget for a long time because of, once again, it has such an impactful ending. And it's the film's final shot that really signifies what the whole film is kind of about. And if you haven't seen A Monster Calls, please go out and see this film before they pull it out of theaters, because it doesn't deserve to make Gem and the Holograms money, you know? It deserves to do exceptionally well. Like La La Land, thank God that's getting all the love it deserves. La La Land's a fantastic movie. A Monster Calls is probably equally as good as La La Land. Like, those are two, in my opinion, flawless films, just about. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing it, or maybe not looking forward to it because I know that it's probably going to destroy me. But yeah, it is out in the UK at the moment. I've just not had time to watch it yet.
Sinner. Sorry.
No. Well, I think it's doing quite well in the UK. It's mainly just in America that it's just not doing well, because January, like, everyone in the UK goes to the cinema in January, basically. Yeah. Because I don't know why, but for some reason, like, Christmas Day is a movie day in America, whereas all cinemas in the UK are closed on Christmas Day.
Yeah.
So yeah, we go to the cinema at different times.
I'm pretty sure I saw La La Land. I think it was on New Year's Eve. I'm pretty sure I saw La La Land on New Year's Eve.
What a great way to end the year.
Yeah, I think because I usually see a movie on New Year's Eve. Like, I think year before I saw Force Awakens for the 3rd time.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing Monster Calls.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So yeah, to recap some of our favorite films of the year. My favorite films of the year. Honorable mentions, of course, include, you know, movies like The Witch and Kubo and Civil War, among some of the better films of this past year. Mm-hmm. And then my top 3 would be The Nice Guys, La La Land, and A Monster Calls.
Okay.
And for you,
so yeah, a couple of honourable mentions for me. We've got Deepwater Horizon.
Ooh, good one.
Which, yeah, it's a little bit slow to start, but once that oil rig starts going up, that film just gripped me and didn't let me go until the credits ended. Powerful. Hell or High Water, probably one of the quieter films of the year, but
didn't see
really,
it. Wish I caught it. Yeah,
yeah, really, really good drama. The Jungle Book, which much like
mediocre.
Much like Disney's remake of Cinderella, I actually think improves on the source material, because like the original Cinderella and Jungle Book, they're not great films. They're iconic films. They've got great iconography, great visuals, and a few aspects of the story that really resonate and are timeless. But story-wise, they don't really hold up, whereas I think that these remakes do, which is why I'm very worried about Beauty and the Beast, because how do you improve upon perfection? Like, Beauty and the Beast is that film where it has an ironclad story and superb iconography. I don't know
I should
how that
probably
works.
rewatch We're probably going to touch on the original Beauty and the Beast on this podcast. I haven't seen it since I was like, I don't know, 7, and I didn't like it. So,
Fair enough.
but keep in mind, excuse me, sorry, my bad. Oh, keep in mind that I like princess movies, so
Yeah.
that's not an excuse. I just didn't like Beauty and the Beast growing up.
Also, Star Wars Rogue One and Sing Street.
Trash. Sorry.
Sing Street's not trash.
I said Rogue One, but Rogue One's not trash either. Rogue One's good. It's good.
Yeah.
It's just not perfection.
No, it's not perfection. And also, let's not forget Star Trek Beyond, which I think in terms of just let's watch a great blockbuster on the big screen, I think Star Trek Beyond is the film that went above and beyond for that. Mm-hmm. So those are my honourable mentions, and of course my top 3. Number 3, Don't Breathe. Number 2, Kubo and the Two Strings, and number 1, Captain America: Civil War. But of course that list is subject to change over the next few weeks.
I want to give a little bit of love to Magnificent Seven, the Magnificent Seven remake, because I thought it was a really good action movie.
So that comes out on DVD in like a week or two's time.
Yeah,
in the UK, so I'm gonna check it out then.
I dug Magnificent Seven. Really dug Sully as well. Sully was another good movie. Shallows was really good. Star Trek, like you said. I like Deadpool. Deadpool was really good. Kung Fu Panda 3 was really good. It didn't make my top. It probably wouldn't make my top 10, but it was really good. I like Kung Fu Panda 3. That was way back at the start of 2016. Like, that was almost a year ago at this point. But that was a really good film. Really powerful, emotional stuff in that one as well. Those movies always sneak up on me. But yeah, I do believe, Trilbee, now it is time to get to the listener questions.
Hooray!
Alright, guys, this is the listener question portion of the show, in which case we answer your listener questions on the Facebook page. So, starters, Dean Jones asks...
Woohoo!
Yeah, friend of the show, Dean Jones. Hello, Dean. Yeah, Dean Jones is quickly becoming my favorite listener.
Oh yeah, he's been knighted on the Film Brits podcast.
Yeah.
Sir Dean Jones.
He says Seb Petey is another great one if you're out there, Seb. He says with the next Star Wars anthology film going to be Han Solo, what do you think will be the next anthology film after that? He guesses Obi-Wan. He says, P.S. What did Bandit think of his Voldemort jokes? I don't know, Bandit. What do you think of the Voldemort jokes?
Oh wait, he's not here.
Wait, wait. I think Bandit has an answer for him. Oh yeah, they were good. Oh yeah. But let me tell you why. The Force Awakens is a trash film. Yeah, there we go. That's my Bandit impersonation.
Mary Sue.
It's a remake.
But
Finn wasn't a good character. God Christ.
So Carrie Fisher did it better. So what Dean Jones is asking is not what we think will be what we want the next anthology film to be. It's like, what do we logistically think the next anthology film is going to be? So it's after episode 9, isn't it?
Yes.
The next anthology film. So after this current trilogy is over, I think Obi-Wan could be the one, or maybe they go Old Republic.
Well, they just announced Obi-Wan's going to be in Rebels Season 3. That's the TV show, if you guys don't know.
Yes, I've seen it.
And apparently he's going to be fighting Darth Maul in that. So that takes away my theory of Obi-Wan getting his own movie. I think because I think a lot of people want that Obi-Wan v Maul rematch, and I think if they're going to give that to us in animated form, they may not do it in a movie. So I honestly don't know where they're going to go next. We may get that Boba Fett film after all, because that they were going with Boba Fett until Josh Trank left. So they may be trying to rework that as we speak and give that to someone else, Jon Favreau. No, but just yeah, I do think. Actually, what's his face? Matthew Vaughn. I think they do really good. Yes. Oh, Boba Fett movie? Yes, sir.
I think so. We could also let's not forget that the Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them of the Star Wars films were the Rancor trainer. I think the Rancor trainer, he needs a film franchise, a 5
If
film
Fantastic
franchise.
Beasts can work, that I think you can do the Rancor trainer. You can do. Oh,
yeah,
God.
I think. Okay, how about
1,000 Years and the Sarlacc? Yeah, that's what the movie's called.
Okay, how about we have a motion capture animated film with Grand Moff Tarkin, but instead we call it Grand Moff Tintin.
And the tagline can be Tarkin about Tarkin. Hashtag Weekly Planet. That's their joke. I took that joke.
I was going to say that's
I
a
wanted
bit
to say. I want to
that's too
say
original.
that. I want to say that before someone calls me out on that, because people have to call me out on things in the podcast. They're like, actually, that wasn't your joke. You took that from Chris Stuckman. I'm like, what are you even on about?
But yeah, I think that they're going to do something more original and maybe branch to some characters that we don't know about. Similar to Rogue One, but maybe a bit more detached.
Nope,
So
Jabba
I'm
the
thinking
Hutt
more-
spinoff.
Jabba the okay.
Goodfellas with Jabba the Hutt. It's exactly what it's going to be.
Actually,
The
that'd be
Wolf
pretty
of Wall
cool.
Street, R-rated and everything, but with Jabba the Hutt.
Leonardo DiCaprio
Is
Jabba the Hutt.
Only
He
so
really
that we
put
can
on
get-
600 pounds of fat to play.
I was gonna say,
to play.
could he not even do motion capture? Could we just get him like a giant suit and it's just him rolling around being like, "He's got boot gun, he's got so." You know, he'd be into it. He'd be really into it.
Well, you know how Christian Bale put on weight for American Hustle.
Yeah.
No, DiCaprio is just like, I'll show him weight gain.
He's rolling around 600 pounds of Jabba fat. Can we get Tom Cruise in a Star Wars movie? I feel like he'd commit. I feel like he'd actually like be Darth Vader. Like he'd actually like put on an actual robot suit and like it'd just be him running from like. Can we get 2 hours of Tom Cruise running away from Darth Vader? I don't know. I just randomly had that thought, but I guess imagine Tom Cruise in that hallway from Rogue One. It's just him, like running from Vader.
Oh, can you just imagine? He he goes into one of his rooms, and of course it's full of microwaves, as we've established on the show before, full of microwaves. And then once one of the microwaves goes ding, then you hear off the lightsaber, and then then he puts his face in the microwave. So yeah, that would have been a way to improve the ending of Rogue One. So yeah,
and then CGI Tarkin makes his cameo. All right. So that answers your question, Dean. So there you go.
Yeah.
Do you have one?
This is actually why I brought up Tintin. Ben Goyofoyle, I think that's right. What are your thoughts on the 2011 Adventures of Tintin movie? I just watched it recently and still love it. Hope we get a sequel sometime soon, as it appears to be in production hell at the moment. Do you know anything about the Tintin movie, Trey?
I know that it was trash. I really wasn't a fan. And, I mean, to be fair, I never finished it, but what I did see, I wasn't a fan. And to be fair, again, I was 12. But it's just, I don't know. I feel like I don't have the time to go back. I'm glad that people love it. I also love that. Did Peter Jackson produce or direct that once? I know they wanted to switch.
Spielberg directed it. It's his first ever animated film.
Yeah.
And then Peter Jackson produced it. And what the plan was that they were going to alternate. And that for the next Tintin film, Peter Jackson was going to direct and Spielberg would produce.
Yeah, they were going to switch back and forth. Yeah, I knew that.
But stuff with The Hobbit, because originally Del Toro was going to be directing the Hobbit trilogy, but then he dropped out, and Peter Jackson had to pick up the pieces of that production and run with that. So it kind of delayed the sequel happening for Tintin. So who knows if it's ever going to happen. I think it's too late now, which is a shame, because I think it was the best animated film of the year that it came out.
I disagree. Rango was awesome.
Rango was mediocre.
You're a trash person.
I know, but I'll admit it. No, but yeah, I think that the one take tank action set piece when they're going down the hill is just an astonishing. Like, Spielberg does not just dip his toe in the water of animation; he skinny dips in that pool and has a lot of fun with it.
He goes skinny dipping in the morning and doesn't even get taken by a shark.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Can you just imagine like naked Spielberg in the pool? Dun, 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 dun. And then he just wins 17 Oscars for it. So yeah, have you got a question?
Yeah, I have another Star Wars question, because of course I does. Of course Eyes does.
Of course Eyes does.
One Star Wars Nathaniel Jepson asks, once Star Wars Episode 8 and 9 are done and the next two anthology movies are here, do you think they will stop and give Star Wars a rest, or do you think they'll continuing? You think they will continue diluting the franchise until it becomes dull?
So I don't think that, like, in the bowels of Disney, I don't think they're thinking, right, after Episode 9, We're going to dilute the franchise. It's going to become really dull. I don't think that'll be the intention.
That's kind of like asking if, like, you know, because, like, so we know we know they're building to the Avengers, right? So, like, once the Avengers comes out, are they just gonna, like, stop making movies so that they don't have to, like, make the Marvel movies dull? Like, you know what I'm saying? I think people need to get their mind out of the fact that Star Wars is a singular story. I think that's what the anthology films are kind of all about now. Yeah, maybe it's because Force Awakens was so similar to A New Hope. And that we're still not used to getting, because say what you will about Rogue One, about it being a quote unquote original story, it still had, and Red Little even pointed this out, it still had, I really have turned into Bandit. It still has a lot of familiar things. It still has the X-Wings versus the TIE Fighters, Star Destroyers, Darth Vader, Grand Moff Tarkin, Princess Leia. It still has all the familiar things we know from Star Wars. So maybe that's why we haven't felt anything fresh from Star Wars to some people, even though we have gotten a lot of new things. If you've seen Force Awakens, whatever, but I don't think it's going to become dull.
No, I think it's a fair question though, because if you get yearly Star Wars, it's hard to miss something if it never really goes away. And I think for something like yeah, Star Wars is the McRib of moviegoing. But I think that after the trilogy is done, I think they do the next anthology film, and maybe they just don't do a Skywalker or like saga film for maybe just a year or two. Maybe they just have maybe 2 anthology films back to back, and then get to the Skywalker trilogy or whatever story they're going to continue doing, if it is with Rey, Finn and Poe and everyone. And what Marvel have done really well is that despite having multiple releases every year, they've been able to mix up the genres and the feel and the tone of each one, which is how they've been able to do that, because with the MCU, you're not just crossing characters, you're crossing different genres.
Yeah, you're not getting an Iron Man movie every year, you know what I'm saying? Like, some may argue that you are, but you're not. Like, Captain America, you're not getting a Captain America movie every year. You're getting a Captain America movie every 2 years, you know? You get an Avengers movie every 3 years. You know, they let those giant event monster movies, you know, they quote-unquote bide your time with other stuff, like your Guardians of the Galaxies, your Winter Soldiers, your Civil War, you know, your Doctor Stranges, so that when we get to the big kind of films of the MCU are meant to be those Avengers movies, and we don't get those every year because then it would become incredibly dull. Someone argued that waiting 3 years between Avengers and Age of Ultron still wasn't enough for some people, apparently, even though it was a 3-year gap. And so I do think, and I'm not even saying that, I'm not just saying this because I want to make, I want to grow up to make Star Wars movies or anything. But, you know, if they would take, like, 10-year gaps between each of the trilogies, that'd be really appreciated.
Give you time to grow up and
give you time to grow up and go to college and stuff. That'd be really great. Giving you time to be director of episode 13 or whatever. Definitely haven't thought about that when I went to sleep at night. Definitely wasn't thinking how cool it'd be if I got to start a Star Wars trilogy movie. It's whatever.
But, yeah, I think that the success of the future of Star Wars would depend on 2 things: if the anthology films are good and also different enough from the saga films, because that prevents the franchise from becoming diluted, which puts a lot of unnecessary pressure on the anthology films. But that's how it's going to have to be if it wants to work in the long term, because Disney, they want to be making, by the time we get to the year 3000, they are going to want 85 Star Wars movies by then.
Well, I mean, by the time we get to the year 3000, we're not going to be watching movies anymore. It's going to be like, oh, do you want your Star Wars pill? Like, you just take it. It's going to be like, it's going to be like Looper, but with Star Wars in pills.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
We are going to be drinking blue milk.
Yeah, essentially. I do like you know, if Phil Lord and Chris Miller weren't doing the Han Solo movie, you know who I think really should? Shane Black. I think he would have done a really good job with the Han Solo movie. I think he would have, say what you will about him not wanting to do niche stuff, but, like, the difference between, like, a Han Solo movie and Iron Man 4 is that Iron Man 4 had to be the direct follow-up to the Avengers, and Shane Black forgot he was making a Marvel movie with that movie. He forgot that the movie had to be a follow-up to the Avengers. He forgot that the MCU was a thing with that movie. But with Han Solo, it could be that isolated story that he would love to tell so much. Like, have it be him and Lando buddy cop movie of them being, like, smugglers with Chewie. Like, I'm down for that movie, but I don't know. I'm excited for Phil Lord and Chris Miller. I don't think it's going to become dull. I think they'll probably take 5 years off, you know, or 5. It won't be. We won't get episode 10 won't come out in 2021. That's not going to happen. I just just because I think Disney and Kathleen Kennedy and all those guys at Lucasfilm are smart enough to have the hindsight to not immediately do, because episode 9 is going to need to be that monumentous, because that officially ends the not just the Skywalker, not necessarily the Skywalker saga, but the Lucas saga. You know, he had 9 films planned in the 80s. Yeah, it was the 80s when he was like, yeah, we're gonna do 9 of these. And so when episode 9 happens in 2019, that's gonna have to kind of be the end of an era, almost, to kind of say this is the end of what Lucas originally had planned. And so we don't know what's after that. And so I think that that is your chance to kind of, in the same way Marvel has expanded into things on Netflix and has gone from doing, you know, your basic heroes that are only going to be the Avengers to, you know, doing things like Guardians of the Galaxy. I don't know. I think there's way too much stuff to happen. Like, those of you who have read the book Lost Stars, which is essentially just Romeo and Juliet set in the Star Wars universe, like, that could be a movie, and it'd be a really awesome one. Well, not to say that that'd be my inspiration for my movie or anything, but, you know.
Well, the main thing to keep the current Star Wars trilogy fresh and not diluted is to make Shakespeare adaptations.
Shut up, Trilbee. All right, we're moving on.
Nay! Okay, here's a good question from Mika Ashbridge.
I was about to ask that one. Good job, Trilbee.
If you could add one category and remove one category from the Oscars, what would you choose? I've got an answer for this if you don't mind me going first.
Go ahead.
I would get rid of Best Adapted Screenplay, and I would put in a category celebrating stuntmen or stuntwomen.
Okay.
Because, my God, did they... basically, Mad Max Fury Road would have won that Oscar last year. Because in terms of the stunt work done on not an individual stunt person, but the whole...
No. I get what you're saying. Like, stunt work isn't something like a Civil War or a or a Mad Max. But if I'm honest with you, I would combine the sound categories, even though I know they're two different things, and I know that sound editing and mixing are two very different things in the film world. But at the same time, who cares? Like, that sounds really like, maybe it's because I haven't made movies yet, but look, you don't have to cut categories, okay? The reason the Oscars are so bloody long is because they want to spend these time. They do this. I don't want to swear again, but they do this shit every year, right? Like, they get the president of the Academy to go out on stage and talk for like 20 goddamn minutes, and it happens every year. And every year, I check out documentary short, gone. Like, if you really don't want to cut that speech, documentary short, gone. Put in best genre film. And Kevin Smith had this suggestion. I heard it on his podcast once. And funny enough, about a guy who talks about how the Academy needs to edit the Oscars, and yet he includes a scene in Tusk where Johnny Depp talks to a pretending to be mentally challenged what's his face for 10 minutes, and it's just there. It's a 10-minute shot. Movie's trash. Anyways, but that's a Tusk reference. But like, put in like best genre movie. Like, you're gonna have your best pictures. That way, I can stop seeing great genre movies not get nominated. You know what I'm saying? Another honorable mention, by the way, for best of the year: 10 Cloverfield Lane. Really dug that movie.
Yeah, that's another 4-star film for me. Really good.
Like,
especially considering that I hated the first film.
A film like you know what I'm saying? Like, there are certain films out there where I'm like, what a genuinely good film that's not going to get recognized by the Academy. Civil War is not going to get recognized by the Academy.
John Goodman should be nominated for Best Supporting
John
Actor.
Goodman needs something for that movie, and he's not going to get it.
He needs a Lifetime Achievement Award or something as well.
He's really good. He's like Buffalo Bill meets a teddy bear, and it's so fun in that movie.
He would play the live-action Ted.
Yeah. I don't know. I think Seth MacFarlane has that down. I think Seth MacFarlane would be just fine playing the live-action Ted.
Because it's interesting what you bring up about like best genre film, because at the very first Academy Awards there was no best picture. What they did, I can't remember what they were called, but there were 2 different awards which were the top prize. One of them was like the most artistic film of the year, and one was the best production of the year. And I think Wings won best production of the year because it was just a massive epic war film. And it's basically last year. it would have been something like, say, The Revenant would have won Most Artistic Film, and then Mad Max Fury Road would have won Best Production. That way you do get your artistic film and your genre film getting the top prize.
And
so
yet
I think that's...
Spotlight took the prize. Like, what the fuck was Spotlight? Like, Spotlight was a good movie.
Spotlight was better than The Revenant, but it wasn't...
Yeah, well,
a
lot of movies are better than The Revenant.
Yeah, it was the second best picture nominee.
The Big Short was better than The Revenant. The Hateful Eight was better than Spotlight. Like, there are better movies on that list that definitely should have got. Steve Jobs deserves way more love than it gets from the Academy.
Well, you mentioned that nobody really cares about best, like, what's the difference between sound mixing and sound editing, and it's clear that the Academy doesn't care either, because they gave best sound editing to American Sniper, a film where literally there are bullet sound effects when no guns are being shot. Yeah, and when you also get, like, best makeup...
Don't sound people vote for that award?
Which is even more baffling.
I like to imagine it was just Clint Eastwood showing up on day of voting. He's just like, you gotta ask yourself. I don't know why he sounds like bad music. You gotta ask yourself, do you vote for both mixing and editing or just one? Huh?
But,
do you, punk?
One reason I say that they should get rid of Best Adapted Screenplay, they should just have a Best Screenplay, because it's clear that the Academy has no idea what an original screenplay is. Because when I think of
you talking about Whiplash? You talking about Whiplash?
Well, also that as well. Because when I think of an original screenplay, I think of something that has no source material. I think of something that is not based off a true story. It's not based off a book. It's completely original. That seems like a very reasonable criteria.
Yeah.
However, the winner of Best Original Screenplay last year was Spotlight, based off a true event, based off a newspaper article, based off a book.
Well, if it's based off a book, especially not. But I do think if you're writing, like, say, you make a movie about the life of they're making a movie about H.H. Holmes. Speaking of Sherlock, the Devil in the White City, and if that screenplay kicks, a lot of tush, and it's a really awesome and well put together screenplay. I think, I don't think Best Adapted Screenplay is what it gets. I think Best Original Screenplay will be fine. You know what I'm saying? Like, Aaron Sorkin is writing and directing a movie about Lucy, what's-her-face? The actress that played her in I Love Lucy.
I thought you were about Lucy, the Scarlett Johansson film.
No.
Making a movie
I'd want to see that movie,
that.
though. But Aaron Sorkin, is that considered, it's based off a true story, is that a adapted screenplay or an original screenplay? I think adapted screenplay fits in if you're like, if it's based off a story originally, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's such a, if it's based off a book, then that makes sense.
It's all of this stuff that just makes it confusing. When you get to biopics, what happens is that Hollywood or studios or producers, they tend to buy the rights to biographies and books as opposed to life rights, because it not only is it cheaper, but it also means that you, if the real life figure or their family says, I don't like how you represented this person, and then you could say, no, we did it from the book. We didn't do it from...
They pulled a Steve Jobs. Like exactly when the movie did. They were just,
it's about... Yeah, it's why so many biopics are not based off real life. They're based off of biographies or books, unofficial ones.
Is there a book about Queen and Freddie Mercury?
About who, sorry?
Because about, like, Queen and Freddie Mercury, because we were going to get a Freddie Mercury movie starring Sacha Baron Cohen, which sounds incredible, but... And
also the Scorsese Frank Sinatra film, which we're not getting anymore.
But they didn't want to do that because the band members of Queen don't want to be misrepresented. They didn't... Like, Sacha Baron Cohen... There you go. Sacha Baron Cohen wants to tell the full story, and that the band members of Queen apparently don't want that. So I'm like, can't they just find, like, a book that's not written by them, and then just, like, adapt that book? Because I really want to see Sacha Baron Cohen play Freddie Mercury. That sounds awesome. But
I think when you also have, say, like Frank Sinatra or the band members of Queen, you need their cooperation because you're also using their music. I think that adds another layer on top of just to make things more complicated. But when I see, like, I'm not saying that, say, Spotlight didn't deserve to win or be nominated. I just think it's
I'm saying that.
I just don't think it's going. Well, I agree, but I think it's just in completely the wrong category. Like Foxcatcher, based off of 3 books and a real life event. Yeah, it's nominated for Best Original Screenplay. Yet Whiplash was the Best Adapted Screenplay because it was based off of its own short film.
Yeah, that to me. I'm like, well, it's based off something that he wrote. Like it was his. So is Hateful Eight? Was Hateful Eight nominated for a screenplay?
Not best original screenplay. I'm looking at the list now. It wasn't
because I'm like
that was actually a big snub last year. I remember.
I was gonna say because
it.
Hateful Eight is based off a book that Quentin Tarantino, or it's based off a, is it a play? It's based off a play Quentin Tarantino wrote, something like that. Like he wrote it in it was either like a teleplay or a road show, something like that. But like he wrote it and then he put it into a screenplay. But it's his idea. So when is the line drawn? You're right.
Yeah, I think when you do have these lines, especially lines that are just being continually contradicted every single year, I think you might as well just have one category, or at least define the rules. Like, I think when you do get nothing's ever truly original, if that makes I'm looking at the list of nominees now. Like Ex Machina, it's not an entirely. It's all about other concepts and aesthetic
was that nominated
influences.
last year?
It was for best. It was
Hey,
along with
good
the nominees last year were Spotlight, Bridge of Spies, despite it being based off of books and true story, Ex Machina and Inside Out, and also Straight Outta Compton.
Ah, yeah, Straight Outta Compton was great. That was a good year. That was a good year for those nominees. What won?
Spotlight.
And
Spotlight. It was the only award it won that night other than Best Picture, making it the first film in like 30 years to only win one other award and also win Best Picture.
That's so stupid.
And also Birdman won the year before, which is, it's an original screenplay technically, but it is also kind of semi-autobiographical about like Michael Keaton's life and career.
That one, but that one's more arguing semantics more than anything.
Exactly, which is why like nothing's ever truly original.
Yeah.
So it's kind of hard to define what is original, which is why I think just cut the pretense and maybe do like nominate 10 screenplays and give 2 out or something. I don't know.
I just think Aaron Sorkin was brutally snubbed last year for Steve Jobs. Like that movie only got like 2 nominations last year, and that was for Kate Winslet and Michael Fassbender, which makes me very sad because that movie.
Did Kate Winslet win?
Did she? No, I thought what's her face won.
Who won Best Supporting Actress?
What's her face? Bloody Ex Machina chick.
Alicia
Vikander, yeah.
And wasn't
she won.
Like, and Hateful Eight was nominated for Jennifer Jason Leigh.
Is that the only nomination it got? I feel like I know it won score, but
it was nominated. It won Best Cinematography.
Oh yeah. I don't know about that.
Wait, one second.
Well, no.
Oh no, it was nominated. Sorry, it was
Revenant.
nominated.
I was gonna say Emmanuel Lubezki won like 3 years in a row, deservedly so.
Mm-hmm. And it was won some Golden Globes, but yeah, and also it also won biggest vandalism of a guitar.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh boy, maybe next time tell him about the actual guitar.
That was fun.
Yeah. Okay. Do you know what? Should we close here? I have this at 2:46.
Yeah. Nearly 3 hours.
Yeah. All right. I think it's a good time closer. All right, guys. So we may or may not bank your questions. We will come back to them and make that exact decision later. Thank you guys all for asking questions on the Facebook page. And that being said, thank you guys all so much for watching or listening, whatever you're doing. Like and subscribe on my channel. Rate us on iTunes if we're still on iTunes. Podbean, Trilbee, where can people find you?
You can find me on my website, www.trilbee.com, where I'm catching up with all the 2016 releases, and we get a lot of comments about it, so I'm just going to, people keep on asking if we're watching Dragon Ball stuff. I've now started doing Dragon Ball Super reviews on geekfeed.com, because that's got the English dub now. Exactly. I gave up about 35 episodes into the Japanese dub because I just wasn't a fan of where the story was going, but I'm actually going to stick with it with the English dub.
That might be the nerdiest thing I've ever heard you say. I gave up 35 episodes again because I wasn't a fan of where the story was going.
I hated it when Piccolo lost to Frost and Vegeta had to step in. What? Yeah, that was actually...
I just want to take your lunch money. God, just...
No, the Super Saiyans will shave
and
me
then
tree.
go buy it, and then go buy a lightsaber with it.
But I know that some of the commenters are Dragon Ball fans, so you can find my thoughts on those every single week on geekfeed.com. You can also follow me on Twitter at Trilbee Reviews, and also follow me on Facebook at Mr. TARDIS Reviews. So Trey, and people can find you on the interwebs at various places, and they can also find you at your home.
I was going to say, are you doing my plugs for me? I kind of want to do them. No, yes, you can find me at my home. Which, by the way, let's briefly talk about the wiki page. So I'd like to make a statement. Alex, make a statement incredibly clear here, please. To everybody on the wiki page, please don't try to find where I live. Maybe that just incentivizes you more to go out and try and find me more. But like, I won't say what's accurate and what's not accurate on the wiki page. But there are people around me personally that aren't too keen that I have a page on the internet where people know certain details about my life. And to answer your question, no, I'm not in band. I'm in orchestra. Keep trying. That means that you can find me.
They put quotes on the homepage.
Yeah, that's a quote.
Feminism's not a club. I haven't received my card yet. It's my quote.
You can find me on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, all at Podcast Media. Yeah, my short film, I'm casting it soon, so I'm excited. The script's done. I want you to read the script, Trilbee, if you don't mind, but we can talk about that later.
Okay. Trash.
I know that's really
not
cliched.
quite my tempo.
I know that's really cliched of like, can you read my screenplay for me, please? No, but anyways, yeah. Catch you all. Join us next week. We talk the worst films of 2016, all the trash that came out. Bandit will probably be back, maybe. And catch you all later. Our movie maniacs.